Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Monel Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. So as promised, here is part 2 for men, about the reasons why many men can't or won't leave their toxic marriages. So as you know, in part 1, I addressed the women, and if you are a man listening to this, I do highly recommend that you listen to part 1 first, because there will be things I've mentioned in there that can also relate to you. And I also recommend that women listen to part 2 for men, because it will help you to gain a deeper insight into the issues that you are facing or the issues other people you know are facing so that you can understand them better. Okay? So men, like women, can also feel stuck in marriages for a range of emotional, financial, spiritual, social, religious reasons, right? And while the social expectations and dynamics may differ, the core themes often overlap. So there will be reasons that I will repeat in this podcast. However, they will be from a male perspective. So it's interesting to see the same issue from 2 different perspectives so that you can understand this dilemma better. So I'll give you a breakdown of common reasons many men feel unable to leave a toxic marriage even when the marriage is destroying them. Okay, it's affecting them negatively in so many ways, but they're stuck, or they think they're stuck. Okay, remember what I said in my previous podcast? There are 4 different categories of people who are stuck in marriages. They either think they're stuck because they have normalized toxic relationships, or they believe they're stuck because their understanding of Islam is that a man should tolerate everything he goes through as a qawwam with his wife, or he's codependent and he's stuck in the marriage because of the trauma bond he has to his narcissistic wife, or he really is stuck. Okay, there are some men who really are stuck in marriages. So as I go through the list of reasons, it will be a good idea for you to have a notepad and pen to take notes so that you can identify which category you fit in. And this will inshallah help you to gain some clarity on what you need to do. So you'll either get some clarity on how to fix the marriage, or you'll get some clarity on how to escape. And sometimes all what people need are just better boundaries. So if you have better boundaries, you're more likely to be able to at least make your situation better or more bearable for you to live in if you're struggling to leave because of children and other reasons. Okay? Now, before I jump in, I'd just like to make a disclaimer. I want to make this really clear that this podcast isn't about women who are abused. So lots of men complain about women who are rude, arrogant, feisty, they answer back, they're disrespectful, and this comes as a result of them being abused. Okay, so they engage in so much reactive abuse and they turn narcissistic, and then men complain about their behavior. This is not about those women at all. This podcast is about good men, good empathic codependent men and empath men who are dealing with toxic codependent women and narcissistic women from the beginning. So these women haven't been abused by them. These men have just found themselves married to monstrous women, okay? And these women either came from backgrounds where they were abused or they were overly spoiled. So they're either the princesses who are arrogant and manipulative and all of that. I'll come on to all of that in detail later. Or they came from families where they were heavily abused by their male relatives. Maybe there was sexual abuse. Maybe there was a lot of physical violence. And so these women bring so much baggage of unhealed trauma into a marriage, and they are fueled with hatred, bitterness, and resentment towards men. So they take it out on you. And you basically have to pay for everything they've been through in their life. Okay, they feel entitled to that from you, even though you have no idea what they've been through. They just come with this personality that's very difficult to deal with. And this personality is either the covert Muslim narcissist who hides behind a religious facade, or it's the woman child, okay, the immature woman who never wants to grow up. You are always parenting this type of woman. She's always acting childish or like a rebellious teenager. Or she is malignant. And as you know, the malignant narcissist is the worst. They are the psychopaths. They are unhinged. They are evil in their core. Okay, these are the women who a lot of men feel really stuck with. Okay, because of their very evil ways. Now, if a man is really unlucky, he will have a wife who has all three personalities rolled into one. And if a man is really hated by Iblis, and this man is codependent, and he has his guards down, and he doesn't have strong boundaries, Iblis will send him a woman who has all three personalities in one, with some extra spice and seasoning. Shall I tell you what the extra spice and seasoning is? Jinn possession. She will have the ashiq jinn attached to her as well. So not only are you dealing with her, you're dealing with her qareen and the ashiq jinn. And you'll see that jinn appear many times in your marriage. It causes disruption, it causes her to go crazy, it causes so much chaos. So these men who are hated by Iblis, who get sent a woman like this, face the worst experiences in marriage. Wallah, I really feel for you. I know you sleep with one eye open at night, and that you're addicted to maladaptive daydreaming to escape the reality you're in. You live in a different reality in your head to make your situation more bearable. I'm recording this podcast to create an awareness so people don't judge men who stay. Because most men don't talk about their problems. So we need to talk about this because a lot of men suffer in silence. Men bottle up everything out of shame, out of worry, out of fear of what could happen. So we always get the women's side of things when they're being abused, but we rarely hear the men's side. And I've gathered so much data from clients and people I've spoken to be able to give you this podcast today. Okay, so it's based on the data I have collected from people who are going through it. So inshallah, people will be more compassionate towards men. And I pray that imams and sheikhs and mediators really listen to this carefully and consider all of the damage that's being caused to men who are being pressurized to stay in toxic marriages to keep the family together. And I know it's easy to say, well, men could just issue a talaq if they're that unhappy, if they're living with monstrous women, but it's not always that easy, especially when children are involved and the man is trauma bonded and highly codependent. And as you know, because I've explained it so many times before, codependent men struggle to stand up for themselves. They don't like conflict. They struggle with saying no. They lack confidence and they also struggle with boundaries. So even if they want to escape, they find it difficult to make the decision to actually break away because of how overwhelming it is for them. And it's also terrifying. And this comes as a result of their childhood programming. So they may have had a toxic mother who conditioned them to accept unacceptable behavior. Okay? And as you know, I've already recorded some podcasts for men about their suffering in silence and the woman child and what happens when a man gets into a marriage with a malignant woman or a narcissistic woman child. So the difference between those podcasts and this one is that I will give you the reasons why they stay, whereas the ones before were about why men are drawn to these types of women and what they go through in these marriages. Okay? So there are more narcissistic men than women in our Muslim communities, but I need to be fair when speaking about narcissism because there are toxic women out there and there are women out there who are ruining the lives of good men. Okay, so awareness does have to be made about this because narcissism is traditionally associated with the bad behavior of men and it's watered down among women. So for example, narcissism is seen as vanity among women. they're arrogant, they think they're better than everyone else because they're beautiful, they flaunt their beauty online, they do this for attention. So people think that this is what narcissism looks like in women, when actually this is just a trait of narcissism. Women who are toxic can be far worse than men because they are more manipulative than men are. They are smarter in emotional manipulation than men. And that's why more men than women get destroyed in toxic relationships. Okay, because women know how to play emotional games better than they do. Men are more abusive physically and verbally, whereas women are more emotionally abusive. And this can cause more damage in the long run. And that's why it's really important to talk about this, okay? Because this is exactly what Iblis wants. And he sends his soldiers, all of these shayateen in human forms, he sends them to good men to cripple them emotionally. They will either become so weak because of the abuse they've been through, or they'll turn red pill and hate women. And they won't be there to protect women. They won't be there as the Qawwamun and the Ummah will fall. And we're seeing this now. So many men have been damaged by women and it's caused them to give up on life. And when this happens, good women can't find good men to marry because they don't trust women anymore. They're too scared to get married again. And boys no longer have role models. Okay, they're told, don't get married. They're told that women are evil. They're told that women are manipulative. So more and more men are actually scared of getting married because they're seeing what's happening to their male relatives. So I'm really hoping that unmarried men who are listening to this take notes so that you can avoid marrying people who have red flags and toxic traits. Too many men are taking risks on women who are clearly unhinged. They are clearly unhealed. You're taking that risk and you are damaging the next generation because children are in the middle of all of this and they're watching and they're learning. So you have to be more aware of the consequences that will come as a result of you marrying the wrong person, especially when you know from the beginning something is not right about this person. This person has too much trauma. This person needs therapy more than marriage. So inshallah, I'm hoping this podcast will help you guys. I don't want to put you off marriage because marriage is beautiful with the right people. But I want you to open your eyes to toxic traits and the consequences of what will happen if you take a risk on the wrong person. We need more men to wake up and heal themselves. So if you've gone through this, it's really important that you take the time to heal yourself from all the trauma you've been through since childhood. Therapy really does help with this. Okay, do invest in yourselves and get the help you need from a professional because they will help you to make sense of everything you've been through. For example, you may learn that you have a people-pleasing trait and a trait where you just want to fix broken people. So even when you see someone who's got red flags and they're unhealed and they're carrying so much trauma and they're already displaying problematic behavior, even when you see all of this, you dismiss it because you believe you can heal them and help them. You have this innate desire to help them improve and get better, which is a great trait. But when you're doing this with somebody from the very beginning who needs therapy more than marriage, you're going to get yourself into a horrible toxic relationship because everything they've been through is going to be taken out onto you. Everyone has to get therapy before they get married. I'm telling you, I have seen so many cases where people are clearly unhealed from all their trauma, and unfortunately they are throwing all of it onto their innocent husband or wife who has to deal with the brunt end of it. And it's not fair, okay? So inshallah, I'm hoping that you'll benefit from this podcast. And I know as well, because lots of male clients have told me this, their wives do not like them listening to these podcasts because I expose their behavior. Well, I don't care. I really don't care. This has to be said, and I don't care how much women scream and how much women go crazy, because they do. Men have told me that as soon as they start playing my podcast or as soon as they pick up my book, their wives are going crazy. Their wives are screaming, they're going into rages because they want them to stop reading the book and stop listening to these podcasts Because they're being exposed. These demonic people are being exposed. And they don't want that to happen. They have managed to manipulate these men for so many years, and they can't handle the fact that the cover is being taken off the eyes of all their victims. That's not my problem, okay? Listen carefully, learn from what I'm going to tell you, so you can break free from the traps of the shayateen. The shayateen want to keep you in very low vibrational relationships that will destroy you. Okay, you never let any human being destroy you. You have to have value. You've got to have dignity and self-respect. You don't let people like this overpower you and have control over you. The shayateen can never be the dominant ones in the lives of the believers. Always know this. Okay, the believers have to be the dominant ones. We cannot live lives that are dominated and controlled by the shayateen. It's a waste of a life, and it keeps you away from your divine mission. You cannot let these people lead you, because they will only take you into darkness. You have to get rid of the shayateen in your life. And if you can't, if you really, really can't, then at least make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rescue you from the big shaitana in your life. Okay, if it's that bad. And I know it can be that bad, especially if they have demon possession. Okay, you have to make dua for that escape. Because I know some women will do black magic on men and all sorts of stuff to keep them there. And that's why I say some men are really crippled in these relationships, because they have afflictions that keep them held hostage against their will. So lots of men are married to big shaitanas, and you have to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from them. So that was quite a long introduction, but it's all important information. And before I jump in, as usual, I'd like to kindly ask you to like the podcast if you found it helpful. Do subscribe to the channel if you find my content interesting, and also to be notified of future podcasts I release. You can also sign up to the newsletter on the website to receive emails about news and podcast releases. Do share it with people whom you feel could benefit from this information. And if you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, you can submit a form. So there's a link in the description box that you can click on, and it will take you to all the information about the programs and sessions I offer. You just need to submit an application and I'll get back to you. Or you can email me directly. My email is in the description box below as well. And if you haven't already, do grab a copy of the Muslim Narcissist book. It provides all the foundational information to these podcasts, which are supplementary. And inshallah, you'll find it really helpful, especially if you can't afford counselling and coaching with a therapist. So do listen to the podcast from the beginning and work your way up, and read the book, and inshallah that will cover most, if not all, of the issues you are facing. There are many more podcasts to come, inshallah, so stay tuned and do subscribe so that you can be a part of this community, inshallah. And if you're new to the channel, I'd like to welcome you. I pray that you find my podcast healing and helpful. So let's jump into the reasons. And they're in no particular order, okay? But do take notes so you can identify, like I said earlier, which category you fit into. So let's start with a man's desire to maintain a stable home environment for the children. So as the leaders of the home, men tend to feel more guilty for breaking the family unit because the children are attached to them and are often trauma bonded to the mothers. So men often worry about the unhealthy attachment they have with their mothers because of the manipulation that goes on. And children know, they're very aware when their mothers are problematic, so they lean onto their relationships with their fathers that are healthy as an escape. Okay, so they form a very strong attachment to the father, and this is how they cope with the problematic mother. So fathers feel very guilty for breaking the family home because they know their children rely on them for emotional support, and they feel guilty for taking that away from them. So if mothers are particularly abusive, they worry about how their children would cope every day without them being there to help them. So for example, if the fathers think about only seeing their children on the weekends, they know the negative impact this would have on the children if they are left alone with the mother. So when fathers know their children need them for protection, the guilt they feel thinking about leaving them causes them to stay stuck in marriages they don't even want. They stay so that the children aren't heartbroken to not have daily access to their fathers. And these men would also struggle to not have daily access to their children. These men are used to a daily routine where they wake up to the sound of their children laughing, their children are jumping on the bed, waking them up. They're making breakfast for their children and they're giving them cuddles, and they come home from work and they give them a bath and they help them with their homework and they help put them to bed. Empathic men are very hands-on fathers. So the bond they have with their children is unbreakable. So a lot of men fear losing this. They don't want to leave their children and miss out on seeing them grow up. They don't want to see them once a week. They don't want supervised visits. They don't want any of that. They love their children so much, it would break their hearts to separate from them. So many men bite the bullet and put up with satanic wives just to keep the daily access to their children. Okay? So that's a very real fear empathic men have. And satanic women take advantage of this. They know this very well. When they see that the children are very attached to the father, the mother takes full advantage. And she knows he's going to put up with anything she puts him through because of the children. Narcissists will always take advantage of your attachments to people or things to maintain control over you. And that's why it gets worse and worse and worse the longer you stay. Because they'll keep pushing the boundaries knowing you're not going anywhere. These women know very well that you're not going anywhere because of your love for your children. And they know that you are tolerating beyond what you would normally accept because of them. So they switch up the abuse for entertainment. They want to see when your breaking point will be. What do they have to do for you to sacrifice even your own children to escape them? Okay, they love to find out. They always want to know what your breaking point is. Okay, always bear that in mind. Sometimes the abuse will look like withholding even more things from you. So they're withholding more affection. They're withholding more intimacy. So now the gap between intimacy is getting bigger and bigger. They are disrespecting you more. They're doing things without asking you. For example, they're going out whenever they want. They're not telling you where they're going. They're traveling without you giving permission for it, and so on. They start doing outrageous things and they withhold all your rights just to see when your breaking point will be. It's a game. Believe me, it's a game. And then when you call them out on it, they don't do anything. They don't care because they know you're still going to stay for the children. And if you show them you're serious, that's when they will turn the table on you and they'll play victim and they'll tell the children that their father wants to break the family. The father doesn't love them anymore. The father wants to leave them and they're not going to have a family and all of that rubbish. After all of the outrageous things that they've done to cause it. They will flip it onto you, and that's how they mess with your head. That's how they manipulate you to stay even longer and tolerate even more garbage. And this garbage can stretch to them cheating on you. They might take off their hijab. They might start, creating videos on TikTok that you don't like. They might start dressing inappropriately. They will really push your boundaries until they find what breaks you. Okay? Please bear that in mind. It's all a game. It's got nothing to do with you. It's them testing your boundaries until you flip so they can play the victim. So that's one issue. Now we go back to the previous issue I mentioned about men who have a genuine fear of leaving their children alone with their abusive mothers. So many men have told me that they struggle to leave the marriage because the mother is so toxic and so is her family. So, for example, a woman will always increase the abuse on the children when she starts to see that he wants to leave, that he's serious about leaving. She'll start yelling more, hitting more, she'll be more abusive in different ways, and he worries for the children. They start asking for his help. They start begging him to not leave them because she does that to manipulate him into staying. She wants to give him a taste of what his precious children will go through if he was to leave. If you leave them alone with me, they're going to get more abuse. And he doesn't want his children being raised by the toxic in-laws either, so he stays. So when he sees the increase in abuse, he worries about them facing all of this evil alone. He worries about the traits they'll pick up from her toxic family and also from her toxic daily behavior. And he fears that if he was to leave them with her the majority of the time and they don't have him there for support on a daily basis, they will grow up to be narcissistic like her. That is the fear of every empathic man, especially if they have daughters who are young and impressionable. So they worry that their daughters will grow up being just like the mother. They worry about their sons not having a good role model in their in-laws and uncles and grandparents and so on, especially if they are very, narcissistic and quite nasty in their attitude and behavior. They worry about them spending the majority of their time with them. So they think a million times before leaving. And sometimes the abuse looks like neglect. So when a narc wife sees that her husband is serious about leaving, she'll start to neglect the children. She won't feed them properly. They'll have dirty school clothes. They won't have healthy lunchboxes to take to school. She might even forget to do their lunchboxes. They go to school without having their homework done or with very messy hair. And they might go to school when they're sick because she hasn't bothered to take care of them, or she's not even noticed that they're unwell. When men see this, they worry for their children. Okay, they really worry, and they stay to look after the children properly, because these empathic fathers are the ones who do feed them properly. They do wash them properly. They do sit and do their homework with them, even after coming back from work. So many fathers are overloaded with so much to do when they get home because the house is a mess. She's done that on purpose. And the kids are a mess. The kids are hungry. They are starving for food because she hasn't fed them yet. She's sat there all night on her phone or on her iPad or watching Netflix series and God knows what. She doesn't care about the kids. And she does that deliberately to keep you there. So you come back really tired from work and you pick up everything. You start cleaning the house, you start doing the dishes, you start making dinner for the children, you start preparing their bath and reading them stories before bed. She leaves you to do that completely on your own. She doesn't help you with that. That added pressure is deliberate. It's all manipulation, and there's a big part of her as well that doesn't care, because they don't like responsibility. So they're more than happy for you to take on that load, even though you're exhausted after work. Okay, but as a father, you'll be happy to do that, but you will be tired. You'll be frustrated. You'll be exhausted because your children are not being taken care of and you are tired from a long shift or a long, difficult day. And this is super frustrating when she doesn't work. So she's at home all day. She's got the luxury of not working, and still the kids are not taken care of. And you might even get calls from the school or from kindergarten while you're at work, and the teachers are telling you, can you please pick up your children because they're really sick? Why did you send them into school? They're missing their books, they're missing their homework, they don't have their PE kit, they don't have their lunch boxes, they're really sick, they shouldn't be around other children. Why did you bring them into school? And you're thinking, well, I left that responsibility with their mum who is at home all day, but clearly she doesn't care, and it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing when you get these calls because it's very clear that the children are being neglected. And then before you know it, social services are knocking on your door because the children are in need of parenting and they're not getting it. So men bite the bullet and stay. Okay, this is a major reason why so many men stay in abusive marriages. And sometimes men know that they are so busy. They worry about getting a divorce and splitting custody because they have demanding jobs and maybe they work long hours or long night shifts. So they know that they can't give the children the time they need as single fathers. So it's easier for them to keep the children in the toxic home than to completely neglect them during the day, because they can't give their children the time and attention they need. And sometimes the mother will place a condition that he doesn't take them to his parents' house. Maybe she really doesn't like her in-laws. Maybe she has a huge problem with his family, and she says to him, you can have the kids, but they are not to go to your family. Okay, she makes that condition, and he knows if he doesn't comply, he's going to get hell from her. He doesn't want to go through that headache. Or he decides to stay put because he knows his parents are elderly and they don't have the energy or the health to look after the children while he's at work or while he's working long hours. Okay? He might have sisters who are married and they're busy with their own lives. He doesn't want to burden anyone with the children because they are a big responsibility. So he thinks about it and he says, well, they're better off here. They're better off here in this toxic home until they're older, and maybe then we can escape. But for now, I have nowhere to take them and there's no one to look after them while I'm away. Their mother's at home. Even though she's abusive, if I'm there on a daily basis, I can at least lessen the impact of all the abuse that they go through. Men also fear losing access or custody of their children in court because they anticipate a huge smear campaign and false accusations directed at them. So they worry and believe that courts and judges are biased against fathers, which can often be the case. So if a father is fighting for custody of his children because he knows that they're unsafe with the mother who is always abusive, he can expect false allegations to come his way and absolute hell in court. Okay, these women punish men by not allowing them to have custody of their precious children, and they do this by creating false accusations. I've seen it many times. And it's only because they want to punish you for leaving that they do all of this, to make your life a living nightmare. They know the children are safer with you. They know they don't want the responsibility of their children, but they will fight you in court to the bitter end to take what you want from you. Okay, and their family will also support them with this. They're flying monkeys. They will give them financial support to get the best lawyers to fight you in court until you are depleted financially. And more often than not, the judge will side with the mother because she gets, evidence of your reactive abuse and you yelling and shouting. Maybe you've hit the kids a couple of times. She'll have all that recorded, and they save those recordings for this time. And that's how many fathers lose access to their children. Okay, lots of these people, these narcissistic individuals, they record you during reactive abuse. So this is a huge dilemma I see among my clients who are devastated because they've lost their children. And of course, when other men see this, they're terrified to leave their marriages. They won't do it. They don't want to go through the same ordeal. They don't want to lose thousands and thousands in legal fees. They don't want to go through all of that stress in court. They don't want their reputations to be ruined by false accusations. So they stay where they are. And there are also men who are terrified that their wives will run away with the children. So if she has family abroad or she is from abroad, these men worry that the women will take off with the children and they won't see them again. And sometimes this comes after threats. So he's either prepared for it because she's threatened him with that already. She'll say something like, if you divorce me, you'll never see the kids again. I'm going to go back to my home country and I'm going to raise them there and you won't be able to come and visit them. I won't let you. She'll say something like that. Or he's seen other women in her family do it, or her friends. So he gets anxiety thinking about what he would do if she was to copy them and take their advice and run away with the children. And she may not go to her home country. She may apply for a job in a different country and take the children there with her. And this is actually one of the reasons why the Saudi government used to have a ban on women travelling without their husband's permission or their mahram's permission in general. Because many foreign women who were married to Saudis would take off with the children. And this would cause a lot of stress. these men are responsible for these children and they have no idea what's happened to them or where they are. So there was a strict ban on this, which is understandable, but men abused it, which is why it's been taken away now. So that restriction is no longer there because men abused it so much. They abused it with good women. Saying that though, until the age of 21, children cannot leave the country without their father's permission. So the wife can travel and the ex-wife can travel, but the children will be stopped in the airport if there is no electronic permission for them to leave. So it's good in a way if the man is a good person, but it's not good if the woman is the victim, if she really is the one who's abused and she needs to escape with the children and she's trapped in the country because she can't. So there are pros and cons to this because there are some women who really are living with psychopaths and they do need to escape them, and the only way to escape is to leave the country. So, this is why muftis have to get involved in these cases. There's no blanket approach to any of this, but it's a real fear of men. And women who live in the West are protected, from all of this. So women can take the children if they claim that they've been abused. Women can take the children if they have evidence of abuse or anything like that. And narcissistic women will again use the evidence taken from reactive abuse. So the governments are asked to protect the children from fathers who are innocent. And this is a very painful ordeal for fathers to go through if they really love their children. So it's a reason why many of them stay. Some women also threaten men by telling them that if they were to divorce them, they will take all their money in court and they will destroy them financially in the process. So men do have concerns about the alimony these women will be granted and the amount of child support they'll have to pay them over a very long period of time, and also the division of assets. So she might claim half his business, she might claim half of his properties, and so on, that he had before he married her. And many men will struggle with losing the family home or the lifestyle they worked so hard to have. So they spent most of their adult lives working and saving to, buy this wonderful house they now have and this wonderful lifestyle, only for the narcissistic wife to take all of it. And he knows she will with her accusations and her manipulations and her tricks. So a lot of men have a fear of starting all over again with nothing. They don't want to start from zero, especially if they've reached their late 30s and 40s and 50s. They don't want to go back to living like a 20-year-old and starting all over again, saving money. They're exhausted, they're tired, they can't be bothered. Okay, they don't have the energy to start all over again. And it makes them feel like failures. Like after all that time, a satanic woman comes and takes everything. No, I won't allow it. I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay and martyr myself in this relationship because I can't let her take my life away. The life I built for myself and the life that I built for us. So a lot of men will tolerate every satanic trick in the book to keep what they've worked so hard for. And I sympathize with that, I really do. But unfortunately, this is a consequence that comes in the package of marrying a narcissistic woman. And sometimes sacrifices have to be made for your freedom. Freedom in these cases is expensive. Okay, there's a lot you have to give up to be free. So a lot of men will sacrifice everything they've worked hard for peace, and some men can't. Some men will martyr themselves because they can't make that sacrifice. They have attached so much of their worth to what they've built. And, by that time, they'll be so stretched financially, they'll be unable to afford living separately. So maybe she'll say, you need to leave the house. I want to keep it for myself because I'm the one who's going to have custody of the children. They need to stay in the family home. I don't want to uproot them. They love this house. They love this neighborhood. The school is close by. So I need to stay here. You leave. So she makes him leave. And more often than not, because he can't afford to rent another home, because according to the court order and her demands, he has to continue paying the mortgage on the house she wants to stay in, he has to go back and live with his parents. Okay, do you know how crippling that is for a grown man after having a family and having his own home and all of that? Some men in their 40s and 50s have no other option but to go back and live with their parents because they can't afford to rent their own place, and they don't want to, rent a room and share a house with strangers. So they find it easier to just go back and live with their parents or perhaps their brothers. And this is very difficult for them because they go back living like a 20-year-old, living like a bachelor who never had any family and who never had, their own home and so on. And sometimes, if the house is particularly nice, the family home, let's say it's a nice 5-bedroom mansion somewhere, and, she's got Mercedes and she's got a really nice garden and she's got so many luxuries, she will fight to her death for those children to stay with her so she can keep the house. And sometimes her family will help her buy your share of the home if you've got shared equity so that they can own the house, and that would have been the plan all along. Okay, she pushes you and pushes you in the marriage to buy her dream home only for you to be kicked out of it. I'm telling you, this comes in the package with every narcissistic woman. That pretty woman you saw who was unhinged before you married her, that's what you're going to get. Lots of men take stupid risks on women who are clearly problematic from the beginning and then cry when this happens. Because 99% of the time it does. And I say 99% of the time because there's always the exception to the rule. And it's rare. Very, very rare. You've got to be really careful with things like this because this is what will trap you until the end of your life in a miserable, toxic marriage because you can't give up the life you built and all the financial investments you made to make them happy. So you'll notice in the marriage they always push you to make all of these grand financial commitments. And usually it's to secure their own future because they know that divorce is coming. They know you won't be able to stand living with them for long. Or they know they're going to apply for a khula. So they end up scamming you out of everything because they already have that intention from the very beginning to come out of this marriage with a lot to fall back on. So with this home, she doesn't need to work. With the car, with the alimony, with the child maintenance, she's good. She's sorted. She doesn't have to do anything. She has sorted her life out without having to do anything for it. So how do you know that you have fallen prey to a woman like this? It's when the women demand so much from you and you get nothing in return, or you get peanuts in return. You have to beg for your basic rights. You've got to beg for basic kindness and, some love here and there, some affection here and there. You're scraping for it. That's when you know you're with a woman who's going to scam you. I'm not saying all women will scam you. There are great women out there who will appreciate everything you do for them. And they show you this by how they love you, how they invest in you as well. They pamper you, they spoil you. You don't have to beg for your rights. They'll give you intimacy, they'll give you affection, they'll give you respect. Good women will do that in return for everything that you do for them, to show them you love them. But a narcissistic woman is not like that. If you are slaving away for a woman and you're not getting much back, be prepared for the scam. Because my brother, it's coming. Wallah, that scam is coming. Okay? She wants to get what she wants with basic minimum. She doesn't want to work hard for it. These women are lazy as hell. The men are as well, but the women even more. Women don't want to work for anything. Women feel entitled to so much in return for nothing. Okay? Bear that in mind. Don't treat all women the same. Don't come out of your marriage saying, I will never do this for another woman again. I will never invest in a woman. I'll never buy a house for a woman. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. You're punishing a good woman for something a satanic woman did. I hear this all the time as well. So many men say this. I will never be kind again. I will never do this for a woman again. When actually you just got burnt by the wrong one. Because a good woman will appreciate everything and you'll get so much back as well. Because she's wanting to build a family with you. She's not looking to scam you. She's not looking for a divorce. She's not looking for a way out. She wants to stay in that marriage with you and build with you. That's the difference. But when a man goes through such a terrible ordeal like this, he starts to believe that all women are like this. So if all women are like this, I'm better off staying where I am. Because he goes and maybe sometimes consults with his friends. And his friends tell him the same thing. Bruv, I'm in the same situation. My wife is exactly the same. You go and speak to your dad. Son, your mum is the same. You go and speak to your cousin. He's telling you the same. So you're like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to stay where I am. Because everyone is suffering with their wife. Which means this is normal. This is what marriage is. Marriage sucks. And I have to stay. And I can't complain because everyone else seems to be dealing with it fine. So who am I to get out of this when everyone else seems to be dealing with it okay? That's the trap Iblis sets up for you, okay? Because you'll often be around men who have the same types of situations because your environment affects the kind of women you'll attract. So you'll find in friendship groups, men tend to attract the same types of women. But when you change your friends, and these friends are high-level empaths, you'll start to see that other people have really good marriages because they choose better. So depending on the friendship circle you have, you'll notice that many of your friends have similar situations and similar types of wives. And it's because you all share a similar mindset towards women and towards marriage. You've bonded over that. So you attract the same type of women. Okay? Some men also feel financially trapped if their wives don't work and they're fully dependent on them. So lots of narcissists do this on purpose. So they have qualifications. They might have had a career before they married you and they quit. They quit their career. They don't want to work. They want to completely financially depend on you, and that's fine because that's their Islamic right anyway. But there's a sinister intention behind doing this as well. So what will happen is when a man is so sick of his wife's toxic behavior and he tells her, I want to leave, I want a divorce, I don't want to stay in this marriage anymore, she plays the victim card and she starts crying and she says, where will I go? What will I do? I have no money, I have nowhere to go. When actually she could if she wanted to. She could have lots of money, she could have a great career, she could find a job very easily, but she's chosen to stay at home because it's a great way of playing the victim. So she starts to make you feel guilty for that. Like, I'm going to be on the street, I've got nothing, what am I going to do? What are your kids going to think of you if you leave me? What are your kids going to think if you turn me out onto the street and kick me out of the home? So they make you feel the burden of their responsibility, especially if she moved from abroad to be with you. Okay? So if you brought her from your home country or another country and she's not working, when she has the opportunity to, but she doesn't want to, it's because that financial dependence will be used against you. And you will be burdened with all of that. Okay, you will be treating her like a child because she's acting like a child who doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know where to go. So a lot of men are stuck in marriages because they feel so responsible for this disabled woman who can't do anything for herself and continue living miserably for many more years. And I say miserably because, again, these women don't do anything at home. They will stay at home, but they won't cook for you. They don't clean. They don't do anything for you at home that would create a comfortable environment for you to come home to. So they'll be on Netflix all day. They'll be on the phone all day. they'll be doing TikToks and all that kind of stuff. You'll come home and you'll find nothing. You ask her if she can cook you a meal, she tells you, I'm not a maid. You tell her that, you would love for, her to dress up, and she can't be bothered. She's been in her pajamas all day. This is what clients tell me all the time. So there's resentment. There's a lot of resentment that these men feel when they go home and they get nothing in return. They don't even get a smile. They don't even get a hug. They're just met with a moody face, and she's already complaining about something. Or she's moaning about the kids or him being 5 minutes late. And it's just a continuous toxic cycle. So yes, in Islam, women are meant to be fully provided for. They don't need to work. They don't need to have a career. They don't need to have a job. They can stay at home and enjoy being at home. But out of mercy for the husband, there needs to be something given in return to make his life easier. So when a woman is not giving you anything, and like I said before, she's making you beg for the basic minimum and for your rights, that's when you know you're with a narcissistic woman. And this is where the resentment of providing for women comes from in many men. So you'll find so many men who hate providing for women because they've been burned by women like this, or they know men who have been burned by women who chose to stay at home and not work. So they prefer the 50-50 situation, right? They want that dynamic instead because they don't want to be scammed. Maybe they were scammed before and they don't want to go through it again, or they've seen other men get scammed by women who were given everything and they got nothing in return. Okay, so that's where that red pill attitude comes from when it comes to providing for women and only the basic minimum. You'll notice red pill men will not encourage men to give anything more than the basic minimum because they always worry about being scammed by gold diggers. And that's how you know the only women they've had experiences with are toxic women. They've never experienced empathic women, and that's why it's dangerous for young men to take the advice of red pill men, because all their experiences come from their traumatic encounters with satanic women, the daughters of Iblis. And you don't want to marry them. So you can't be taking the advice about narcissistic women when you want an empathic woman. You need to be listening to the advice of men who are completely different, men who are happy, men who love to give to women, men who are providers and protectors, and they do it because they are always able to attract appreciative women who love them. The red pill men can't attract those types of women because they're so bitter and toxic themselves. So when you take their advice, you end up attracting the kind of women they always bash in their podcasts, right? They're always slamming that toxic woman. Well, it's because she's the only woman they can get. High-value empath women never marry red pill men. So you will dig yourself a grave if these people are your role models, because their advice comes from their own trauma and bad experiences with horrid women. So be careful who you invest in, because you could be stuck in a very long-term marriage with a woman who is completely dependent on you, and she's done that deliberately to play the victim. Okay? Other men are stuck in toxic marriages because they feel guilty divorcing their wives and letting them go back to their toxic families. Okay, they can't send them back there. She has already painted a picture about them from the very beginning that they are monsters. Okay, they may or may not be. It could be true, maybe not. But she will describe them in a way that makes you fear for her life and her well-being when she visits them. You worry. You think, how can I send her back to her toxic father or her toxic brothers who are violent? She's told me so much about her childhood traumas and sexual abuse and physical violence. How could I ever send her back to her family home? Sometimes they make it up, okay? Sometimes women lie about the abuse they've been through with their families so that you never divorce them, because they know that you know that going back to their family home is the only option they'll have if you divorce them. Okay? So they don't always lie about it. Some women do tell the truth about their trauma, but there are women who lie about it as well. And who are the women who lie about it? The ones who run to their so-called toxic fathers when things go wrong between you. So they will triangulate you with the so-called toxic father or the toxic brothers. And you think, hold on, I thought they physically abused her. I thought they did this to her. Why is she triangulating me with them? Why is she comparing me to her toxic father? Why is she complaining about me to her toxic brothers who supposedly beat her up all the time? Okay, you've got to be careful. Not all the stories are true. And sometimes she will be the one to demand a divorce. And you'll think, well, hold on. If you get divorced, if you apply for a khula, you're going to end up going back to the toxic family you complained about. And I'm not an abuser. I haven't abused you like your family have abused you. So there's something very fishy about that. Okay, be very careful. Lots of women will make up so many stories about their childhood trauma to keep you stuck in a marriage with them. Because when they start demanding a divorce, you have to start asking yourself, why would she want to go back to the toxic family she ran away from? Why? It's because it's not true. They are sick of her. Okay, that's usually the case. The father and the mother and the brothers, they are sick of her because of how narcissistic she is, how difficult she is. It's usually the other way around. She projects her story onto her family. And when you sit with her father, he's a pleasant man. Her brothers are pleasant. Her mother, she might be a bit toxic, but they're not as bad as she described. Okay? Now, some families will put on a facade when they are abusive. So, this doesn't apply to everyone. Some narcissistic families will come across as being very nice and, they'll throw you off track in regards to who they really are. But women who cry wolf and who say to you all the time that their families are horrible, their families are toxic, my father tried to kill me, my brothers hit me, my family tried to marry me to a 90-year-old man and I have to run away and blah, blah, blah. Those women are often liars, pathological liars, because they're more than happy to keep demanding a divorce to trigger your abandonment wound and go back to their toxic family. A woman who really went through so much childhood trauma would rather stay with you than ever go back to her family. Okay, so be very aware of this manipulation. And yes, some women might be trauma bonded to their family members, especially if they're highly toxic. However, if she's saying things like they tried to kill her, they tried to, physically abuse her, they raped her, all that kind of stuff, but she compares you to them, or she's okay going back to living with them, that's a huge red flag. Either it means she's a pathological liar, or it means that she is severely damaged and she needs some serious therapy for that. Okay, because there are people who have Stockholm syndrome and they do run back to their abusers. Okay, so either way, it's not good for you to be with this woman. And they will keep demanding divorce over and over and over again until you do that. You do give the talaq, and then they play the victim. And then they punish you for that. I can't believe you divorced me. I can't believe you did that to me. I can't believe you're okay to send me back to my horrible family. You're such a horrible person. You're such this. You're such that. I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to do this to myself. That's what happens. Okay? So a lot of women will trigger you to the point of giving them the talaq. And they'll ask for it so many times only to play the victim and show you what a horrible person you are. Like after everything they told you about their toxic family, you're still willing to send them back. So you feel really guilty and you keep them there. Okay, you keep that woman there and you stay in the toxic marriage even though you're dying to get out, but you can't because she's made you feel really guilty. She's really succeeded in doing that. Okay, so either way, she needs help. She doesn't need marriage. She needs professional psychotherapy. Because women who really are grateful for being able to escape such a toxic home, they'll do so much for you to show gratitude. Okay, they won't be narcissistic with you at home. They might be toxic if they still have that trauma that they haven't healed from, but they're not going to do things to sabotage the marriage. They will actually be very clingy. Okay, they'll be so clingy, they'll be so terrified of you divorcing them, they will never ask you for a divorce. They will panic every time they see that you're unhappy because they don't want to go back. That's the difference. Okay, a woman who's really telling the truth and she's grateful that you saved her, you rescued her from that situation, she will be more clingy than anything else. because asking for a divorce, asking for a khula is way too risky for her. Okay, she has that genuine fear of being left on the street homeless or going back to her toxic family, and she knows she's only going to expect more abuse from them, especially as a divorcee. Okay, so do be aware of this because many men are manipulated in this way and it keeps them stuck. Some men are also stuck because they have to pay a high dowry or mu'akhar. So let's say she demanded a very high dowry from you that you couldn't pay up front, you agreed to pay it later, and because you're the one who's going to divorce her, you are still tied to that obligation. Okay, so you worry about paying her 30,000, 50,000, or however much it is that you can't currently afford to pay. So you'll be stuck in that marriage until you collect that dowry money to pay her so you can escape. And more often than not, if the dowry is very high like this, the woman will reverse discard you to be able to get that dowry because you're going to be the one divorcing her. She's not going to apply for a khula, so she doesn't lose the right to the dowry. But as long as you divorce her, that will remain a debt around your neck. Okay? And sometimes, in some cultures, there's a mu'akhar, which is a specified amount of money that a husband has to pay his wife should he divorce her. So let's say you've agreed in the marriage contract to give her £50,000. If you were to divorce her, you're bound to that as well because it was in the contract. So it might not be dowry, it might be a cultural requirement, but it's nothing you can escape. Okay, her father will be on your case, her brothers will be on your case, and again, she will reverse discard you to get that. There are lots of women who get so many dowries from men this way. So they become such a nightmare to live with until you divorce them, but they still get to take this high dowry. If it's a dowry of 2,000, 3,000, something petty, they're not going to care. They'll probably just go apply for a khula, they won't care about that money. But be very careful with women who ask for very high dowries that you can't afford. Because if you agree to pay them over time or pay it later, you may end up paying it after divorce. Okay, the marriage may not even last that long. She would have reverse discarded you before you could even pay it back. Okay, so sometimes the dowry is very high to keep you stuck. Be very wary about this. Don't show off and be like, okay, I can pay 100,000 or whatever it is that they ask for. Don't be a fool. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. If it's something you can pay off quickly over the course of 6 months, say, maximum, fine. But if it's a very high amount that you need to pay over years or whenever you ever have that money, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea to accept that. Okay, if you've got help from your family, okay. But if it's just you, you're going to be stuck in that marriage and you're going to go through so much misery with a narc wife until she gets what she wants from you and you would have come out of it with nothing. And I'll tell you a secret, a lot of narcissistic women marry men they don't even like or are attracted to. Okay, they marry men who have money with the intention to fleece them and get high dowries from them and lots of other financial benefits, but the intention is to always reverse discard them. So these women will take advantage of the beauty you're so obsessed with, and they get you to sign away lots of things during the marriage. They'll get you to buy them houses and expensive cars and jewelry and perhaps businesses and things like that. And when they've got enough, that's when they'll begin the reverse discard. You will see their worst side come out and they will push your boundaries and push them and push them and push them until you crack and you say, Anti talaq. Then she gets away with everything. Okay, that's the whole plan. This is what they agree upon amongst themselves. This is what they teach each other. Listen to the sprinkle lady. This is what she teaches everybody. So if you are with a narcissistic woman, that's what's going to happen to you. Stop doing things you can't afford. Stop promising things just because you want to win this attractive woman who, you believe will boost your self-esteem and self-worth. You want a trophy, but the trophy is going to cost you. Okay, don't be a fool. They will reverse discard you to get everything from you, the same way men reverse discard women and push them into a khula to get all of their dowries back. This is all oppression in marriage. And there's a punishment for this in the dunya and the akhirah. You can't scam people like this. So if you see narcissistic traits in someone before you marry them, know that you are taking a very high risk. Okay, especially if they ask you for a high dowry. Now, if there's no high dowry and there are no assets in their names, what they will do, or what they might do, is demand assets in return for them leaving you alone. So, for example, it might be very difficult to divorce a woman because she's very financially dependent on you. So what she'll say to you is this: if you divorce me, you will have to give me my own house, you have to buy me a house or buy me an apartment, or you have to pay my rent until I get remarried, and you have to pay for all my bills, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And some men are so desperate for these women to leave them alone, they will agree. And sometimes here the women will use the excuse again that they don't want to go back to their toxic family homes. So they'll say to you, well, I would agree to the divorce if I didn't have to go back to my family home. I would agree to the divorce if I didn't have to go back to my home country. So if you really want a divorce, buy me a house, do this, give me half your business, give me $1 million, give me whatever it is that they want. And you'll be ready to sign that paper. And they'll feed off you financially for potentially many years. Many of these women don't want to remarry. Okay, because they're so emotionally unavailable, they don't enjoy marriage. Narcissistic women do not like being married. So she may just take advantage of the fact that you've now bought her a house. She doesn't have to work. You're paying all her bills. You're paying for all her maintenance. Why would she want to get married? She will enjoy her life as a single woman and see the children once every 2 weeks. She'll be more than happy with that, and she gets to live her life. And this will backfire on you if you ever want to get remarried, because women won't accept this. Okay? Women will not accept your ex feeding off you financially until she gets remarried. This could be years of alimony and whatever you're paying her. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot with that one. Women will not accept it, especially good women. And if a woman accepts it, believe me, you're going to have problems over this later. Big dramas, big problems. You're going to have arguments over it because she's not going to like that you are providing for her in full and she's your ex. I've come across these cases. And these men allow these women, these narcissistic women, to ruin their past, their present, and also their future. Okay, because narcissistic women know that your future wife is not going to like this one little bit, and she wants that power, she wants that control, because she knows you're going to lose out on very good opportunities because of this problem, because of her presence in your life and the share she has in your finances. Okay? And let me just tell you something. If she really feared going back to her toxic family or going back to her home country, don't you think she would have been a better wife? Don't you think she wouldn't have risked being divorced? Don't you think she would have treated you so much better? Because being with you is so much better than living in poverty in her home country or being abused by her family. It's a scam. Believe me when I tell you it's a scam. Okay? Women who really fear these consequences will treat you well because they don't want to be divorced. They wouldn't make your life a living hell. You've got to wake up. You are giving them everything. They are living like princesses with you. But yet, you get nothing in return. You get your rights taken away. You get abused. Wake up, brother. Wake up. And sometimes, despite all the information that's out there about narcissistic abuse, there will be some men who choose to stay stuck in their marriages because they have a fear of being judged by their communities and also their friends and family members for not being able to hold their families together. And sometimes they're on their third or fourth marriages. So they may have had some really bad luck with narcissistic women, and they've either divorced 3 or 4 times or they've been divorced 3 or 4 times because of being discarded, and they worry about their reputation. They don't want to be seen as abusers or major problems. So they stay because they know that the community will judge them for being failures and narcissistic and also misogynistic. And if these women launch smear campaigns against them in the community, then more likely than not, women will believe them. So men will find it very difficult to get remarried because word spreads in the community about men who are divorced, and women too, but it can cause someone to not marry for a very long time when people believe the lies and false accusations in the smear campaigns. So to protect themselves from this social damage, many men choose to stay because it's easier for them to do that than have their entire image shattered in front of people. Okay, especially when they've worked so hard on their character and they've done so much in the community. And they'll also get people who tell them to man up and manage their women. So when men are seen to have difficult wives, they are expected by their brothers and their fathers and their friends to just man up, manage your woman. What kind of man are you to not be able to manage your woman? And sometimes men find their women too overpowering and too overwhelming for them. They have no sense of authority over them. Okay, the women wear the pants in that relationship. The women are dominant in that marriage. And it's very difficult to have a say. So when a man is codependent and lacks a lot of confidence in his roles, then a woman who is narcissistic will tread all over that. Okay, she will walk all over you. So it will appear to people that your wife controls you. Your wife is the one who runs the show. She is the one who's in control. So men expect these men to just man up and deal with it, but they don't understand codependency, they don't understand trauma bonding, they don't understand all of these things, and some men are more sensitive than others. Some men are a lot softer than others. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create all men to be the same. Some men are very soft and gentle, and other men can be more aggressive and brutal, and they'll have their own ways of asserting dominance and control in their marriages that softer and kinder men don't agree with. Men are all different, but that pressure from families and communities and friends and even your local imam, your local sheikh, that pressure to stay and make it work and them telling you that all women are like this, it's terrible, terrible advice. That pressure can keep a lot of men stuck because there's a sense of pride in keeping your family together. So men don't want you to go through that ego death, okay, of not being able to hold your family together. So they put pressure on you to keep the family together, okay, and that pressure is what causes you to stay in a very miserable marriage long term. And they will even tell you that, there's Jannah for you for putting up with all of this and all of her toxic abuse and her outbursts and her disrespect and this and that, because a pious man doesn't divorce. All right, they'll tell you that as well. Maybe they're telling you this because they don't want their daughter to come back to them. Maybe they're telling you this because they benefit from you being married to this woman. Or staying married makes your parents look successful because they're showing the world that they managed to raise their children well and they got them all married and they stayed married. Okay, so there's a sense of pride for the parents to show off that their children are happily married and that their sons know how to keep their families together. So they will pump out the religious advice and the religious guilt, okay, to make you stay. They'll tell you that a husband puts up with everything and he's patient with everything because that's what a real man does. Okay, he has to work to the bone to make it work. He has to martyr himself in his marriage to make it work. That's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Allah told us that marriage is a contract between two people who need to make it work. So if you're slaving away with nothing in return, this is oppression. If you're the only one putting in the work and the effort to keep a marriage together, you are a slave to this woman because she's not meeting you halfway with mercy. Okay, she's not making it easy for you to be the husband you need to be, because she's taking away your rights, she's abusing you, disrespecting you. She's not allowing you to step into the role of a qawwam. And before you know it, you're becoming as toxic as she is because you're engaging in reactive abuse. You're now frustrated because she keeps withdrawing intimacy. She keeps weaponizing it against you. She keeps taking away things that you love. She keeps using you, abusing you, and all of that. So eventually you start becoming toxic too. And you start acting out in ways that are very out of character for you. You start screaming, yelling, shouting, you're having breakdowns, you're slamming doors, you're breaking furniture, you're doing those kinds of things, and she's now gaslighting you into believing that you are the abuser. And that's how they turn the tables on you. All of a sudden she's calling you a narcissist. And you're starting to believe it because of your reactive abuse. When you go to Google all the signs of narcissism, you find them within yourself because of how you're treating her now. She's starting to point out everything you do in reactive abuse to distract you from what she's doing to you and how she actually got you to that point. So this is when they throw you off track. Okay? They don't want you to focus on their toxic behavior. They want you to believe that you're the problem, and that's why they're doing everything to you. That's why they're being mean to you and weaponizing intimacy and not going near you and not giving you any affection because of your reactive abuse. Now you're the narcissist. Okay, that's why so many men stay silent. They're so embarrassed, or they're reluctant to talk about these issues with other people because deep down they worry that they are the abusers. And then you go out of your way to please this narcissistic woman, and that's exactly what she wants, because now she's getting more supply, because she's managed to brainwash you into believing that you are the problem, that you are the abuser. And when she sees you all bottled up, okay, you're not telling people about your problems, she knows you're too embarrassed. She knows your ego is going to take a hit when people pity you and sympathize with you. She takes advantage of that too. Your inability to speak out is used against you. She will take it as a weakness, and she continues to push your boundaries again and again. She sees no end to it, and she relies on your weakness to continue her abuse, because she knows that you are worried about being exposed in front of your family for your reactive abuse. Okay, you're so worried, you're so ashamed, and you don't want to disappoint your mother and your sister and your aunties when they hear that you've lashed out in a very ugly way, or you've hit her, or you've thrown something at her, because they never raised you like that. They never raised you to be that kind of person. So you don't want them to be disappointed in you. You would rather face her wrath than face that shame, because they're so disappointed in who you've become. So she relies on that, okay? And she will justify everything she does because of your reactive abuse. This is how sick these people are. Okay, they're already punishing you, and then they punish you double when you react, because they use it against you. They want you to react to their abuse in a toxic way so that they can continue abusing you. That's the whole point of the game. That is the game. Okay? And men do this to women too. This is why I've told women to listen to this podcast as well, because it fills in the gaps of things that I didn't mention in part 1. Men do this to women as well. They all play the same game. They all live by their satanic book of rules and tricks. They push you to do things you'd be too embarrassed to tell your families about. And that's exactly how they maintain control over you and your silence. And of course, this whole ordeal is so much worse when you're dealing with a so-called religious Muslim narcissist, right? So men deal with this too. They may have really liked a woman for marriage because she's very religious. She's very pious. She wears a niqab. She wears the full abaya. She wears gloves. She's very Salafi in her mindset, or even very Sufi. It doesn't matter which, school of thought they follow. But the idea is that they come across as being very practicing. She'll be the type to always read Quran. She's always up for tahajjud. She prays on time. She's always reading dhikr. So you think, wow, mashallah, she's really pious. But after you marry them, you start to see that there's no depth to their prayers, they rush their prayers, they read Quran mindlessly, they don't apply what they read into their lives, they cover in a certain way to appear pious. It's not because they are, they want to show people that they are. So it's a deception, it's a facade, because behind all of that, they're abusing you to the moon and back. They're disrespecting you, they're just horrible, horrible people. So they gaslight you into believing that you're doing something haram and detested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you tell them that you've had enough. You want to end the marriage, you want to issue a talaq. That's when they show their anger, and they will tell you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne will shake because of you. They will tell you that it's haram to divorce a pious woman and that you'll be punished for it in hellfire. They tell you that it's haram for a man to give up on his family, okay, especially when the woman is practicing. So they use this facade to their advantage. They'll give you constant Islamic lectures and hadiths, and they'll quote Quran verses out of context to manipulate you into staying and not issuing that talaq. They will make you feel so guilty for even thinking about it. How can you divorce a woman who gets up for tahajjud? She might even threaten you that she will pray against you in her tahajjud prayers if you divorce her. Now, you're confused at this point because you're getting abused and disrespected, but at the same time, you see her so practicing and you wonder who is right and who is wrong. Does Allah love this person? Will I face the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if this person prays against me? Maybe it's better not to take the risk. Maybe I should be patient and surrender and just do what she's telling me to do because she seems to be more pious than me. And they do this. They put on a show of being extra pious, far more pious than you, so that they can use the religious card against you. So if you don't pray your sunnah prayers after your obligational ones, they'll do that. If you don't get up for tahajjud, they'll do that. If you don't fast Mondays and Thursdays, they will do that because they need to maintain control over you by doing more of the sunnah things than you to appear more pious, so that when you divorce or when you think of divorcing, the guilt that will overshadow you will be in their favour. And you'll notice as well that they don't like it when you start doing things to match them. So for example, if you start fasting Mondays and Thursdays with them, or you start praying your sunnah prayers, they don't like it. They don't want you to do that. They don't want you to get better. They have to maintain an upper hand in piety, okay, so-called piety. And they will show distress at this because you wanting to match them is actually improving your iman. It's helping you to have a better connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when their demonic entity realizes that, they start to attack you for it. Okay, because remember, their satanic mission is to keep you away from faith. It's to keep you away from health and well-being and everything that's good for you. Because they're abusing you to destroy you. Okay, they want to destroy your confidence, your well-being, your health, everything. So when they start to see you become more practicing, it really bothers them. And they'll start to lecture you about things. They'll start to nitpick on things. You don't do this properly. You're not praying properly. Your wudu is not right. You swore, so your whole fasting day doesn't count now. You're not reading Quran properly. You don't know how to read Arabic. You don't know how to pronounce the letters properly. They will start to pick on you so that you give up. Okay? They have to have this high ground when it comes to piety. They need to be much better than you. So they will try to knock your confidence in what you're doing to keep you in a low state of being. Okay? And eventually you're going to start hating listening to hadiths. You will start hating listening to Quran verses because of how much they use them to knock your confidence, belittle you, make you feel like you're never good enough, make you feel like you are the worst Muslim ever. No matter what you do, you can never be as pious as them. And that keeps you at that level. Okay? And eventually you'll start to hate yourself as well. You won't feel like a man. You won't feel like a proper Muslim. And sometimes that self-hate causes you to stay in that marriage to punish yourself. Some men have told me this. I stayed in that marriage to punish myself for my weakness. I was so sick of my own weakness and not being able to get out of it and not being able to stand up for myself. I stayed with her to punish myself. I said to myself that if I stayed through this, I would die a martyr. If I stayed through this, I won't get punished in the akhirah. Because clearly I'm being punished for something by having a wife like this. So lots of men stay stuck in these toxic, miserable marriages because they now hate themselves. Okay, they are now repulsed by their own weakness. So they allow her to dominate. And they just pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the highest level of Jannah for it. Okay, you voluntarily martyr yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not ask you to do that. That's come as a result of your own mental health now that's been caused by her. And sometimes this can be caused from childhood wounds as well. So if you were often manipulated with religion, then you would have tolerated that in your marriage. Because you were used to your mother doing that to you, your father, your siblings. They would always use religion to control you. So when you have a wife like that, it becomes normal, but you hate it. Because she will trigger those childhood wounds that made you hate religion growing up secretly. Okay, lots of children grow up hating Islam because of how much they were manipulated by it. So when they marry the same kind of woman, they just think, well, this is normal. She's bringing back horrible memories, and that's why you resent her even more. When a person triggers your childhood wounds in a negative way, not in a way that helps you heal them, but in a way that opens them again, so you feel the pain like it's new, you can really hate the person for it, or resent them. However, you're still really scared to divorce a seemingly pious woman. You'll be terrified to make that decision, just in case you upset Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So lots of men fear taking that risk, okay? And even if some do find the bravery to tell their wives they want to leave or they want to end the marriage, she will run to people you know, okay? She'll run to your family, she'll run to mutual friends, and she'll be crying and, grieving and showing that she's, the real victim in the story. And they will call you to advise you that you need to treat her better. You're oppressing the poor woman. She doesn't want the divorce. She knows how to appear very sweet and innocent. You don't see that side of her at home. She puts it on for other people so they feel sorry for her and pity her and sympathize with her. So she will say things like, I've got nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. I've done everything I can to fix this marriage. He's never happy. And now he wants to divorce me. And it's, unjust. He's being unfair. And you'll get people pressurizing you, telling you to stay and be patient and to fear Allah because of the drama she's come with. Okay, the show, the facade of her being broken, of her being hurt and in pain. Okay, she'll go to them crying. So this is a huge manipulation tactic that they use to keep you in the marriage and to reinforce that guilt that you need to feel when it comes to divorcing them or thinking of divorcing them. People will tell you, why are you divorcing such a pious woman? She's so sweet, she's so lovely, she's doing this for you and that for you and all of that. They will make you feel guilty. They will fuel that because they feel sorry for her now. And them feeling sorry for her will put doubts in your own mind. So now you start to second guess yourself. Is it just me that's seeing this? Am I going crazy? Am I losing the plot? Is she really pious and great? And, have I made her like this? Maybe I need to be better. Maybe I need to do a lot more to see what other people see in her. Right? That's what a lot of men start to think. But it's all for control. Okay, all of it's for control because she's not done with your supply. She really benefits from the supply you give her until she decides she wants to leave. And when they decide to leave, it's very random. she'll just get up one day and be like, I want a divorce. And she'll ask for it again and again and again when she's done with the supply. But she will not handle you divorcing her before she's done, taking everything she wants to take from you and fulfilling her satanic mission. The other day, I came across a really nice post on Instagram, and the account is Husband of Sunnah. And I just want to read you the caption under that post. And I think a lot of men will resonate with this. He said, she dressed the part, spoke the part, quoted the part. But behind closed doors, it wasn't Islam she practiced. It was control dressed in Quranic calligraphy. She used deen like a mirror, but only to reflect my flaws, never hers. She'd guilt me with ayahs, shame me with hadith, and call it advice. I was always the one who needed to repent. She was always the one who was already forgiven. And I kept wondering, was this what righteousness looked like? Or was I just being spiritually manipulated? Because every time I tried to express pain, she'd call it weakness. Every time I asked for softness, she'd call it emotional immaturity. She prayed on time, but never paused to ask if I was okay. She fasted Mondays and Thursdays, but never fasted from criticism. And I stayed silent, not because I was patient, but because I was scared. Scared that speaking out would make me look less religious. Scared that questioning her would mean questioning Allah. Scared that maybe I deserved this. But did I? I don't know. So you can see how lots of men will doubt their own faith when they're faced with a wife like this. He went on to say that it's heartbreaking how spiritual manipulation can hide behind the language of deen, sometimes so subtly that even the most sincere brothers doubt themselves. Islam never meant for one spouse to use the Quran or Sunnah as weapons. True righteousness is shown in compassion, listening, and humility, never in using piety to silence or control. If you ever feel erased or belittled in the name of religion, it's not your fault and you're not alone. Stories like this prove why we need to talk about spiritual power dynamics in marriage. Silent suffering is not sabr. It's not patience. It comes from a lack of knowledge and also childhood trauma. Some men are also stuck in marriage because they were forced or pressured into marrying their cousins. So they can't divorce them because if they did, it would break up the whole family. Okay, there would be feuds, there'd be lots of drama, both sides would be upset with each other. So they have that pressure to make the marriage work and to keep their wives so that the family doesn't fall apart. Some parents might tell their sons that their dying wish is for them to marry their nieces. So for example, a mother might say, please, I want you to marry my only niece. I'm begging you. This is my dying wish. Before I die, I'd love to see this happen. I want you to take care of her. I don't want her to go to a stranger, and so on. So he may marry her and she may turn out to be very narcissistic. She might abuse him and everything. And he would have to wait until his parents pass away before he divorces her so he doesn't hurt them and break their hearts. So if a man believes in obeying his parents in this matter, he won't want to disappoint them. So he'll wait until then, which could take a very long time. So that's a reason why he would be stuck. Another reason is knowing that their health is deteriorating. And they believe that because of this, they're better off staying. They ask themselves, who would want me with all my health problems? I'm now overweight or I'm underweight. I've got no energy. I'm losing hair. I've got alopecia. I'm going grey in my youth. I've got depression, I've got low sex drive, I've got no confidence. They think about these things and they wonder how difficult it would be to get remarried. So they decide to stay in their toxic marriages because of thoughts like that. Some men also have a great fear of being alone or starting all over again. Okay, so if you're codependent, you're not going to want to be alone. Lots of men can't be alone. So they'd rather stay with their toxic wife than be completely on their own or have to start all over again like They've never been married, never had children, never built a life for themselves. Like I said before, they'd have to go back to starting from zero, which might mean moving back in with the parents and living like they're 20. Lots of men really do fear this, okay? And there are lots of people as well who would rather stay with an abuser than be alone. So as long as they have someone, they're okay. They don't care if they're being abused. They don't care if this person is cheating on them, disrespecting them, yelling at them, screaming at them. As long as they're not alone, they're fine. This is toxic codependency. Okay, lots of men have this, lots of women have this. So it can come from you just being very used to this person and convincing yourself that it's love. So you know this person's toxic, you know they're abusing you, but if you can somehow justify it to make it look like it's love, and that's the reason why you're staying, because you've known this person for such a long time, maybe you've been married to them for 20 years, maybe you've known them since you were teenagers or from college or university. If you can convince yourself that it's love, then you can bury toxic codependency out of the way. You don't have to face that. You see, lots of people, they bury that because they don't want to look in the mirror and see themselves as toxic codependents. So they'll find ways to justify staying with an abuser. And of course, it's the trauma bond as well. But in toxic codependency, people know they're with someone who is evil. They know they are with someone who's not good for them. But because of their own issues, they decide to stay. So toxic codependents aren't usually brainwashed and blindsided. Toxic codependents know exactly what they're doing. But there is shame that comes with it. Okay, people hate being branded as toxic codependent because they have that shame and they know they're staying with abusers because of their weakness and not because they can't escape. Okay, so toxic codependency thrives on abuse. It thrives on drama and chaos. And there are men who like that. There are lots of toxic codependent men who are addicted to it because this is all they've known. So this addiction keeps them stuck in the marriage. And of course it happens to women as well. So these people believe they deserve the toxicity that comes from their husbands or wives. Okay, there is an element of self-hate within them as well, and that's why they lean more towards the narcissistic side of the scale than the empathic side. So toxic codependency leans more towards narcissism than empathy. And it's because toxic codependents don't love themselves. When you don't love yourself, you don't have dignity, you don't have self-respect, you don't know your worth, so you accept the worst of behavior. You accept the worst attitudes from people, you accept so much abuse, and you see it as love. You thrive on that chaos, and that comes from your childhood trauma and sometimes traumas in adulthood. So toxic codependents and narcissists are very similar to each other. And someone can become a toxic codependent by living with a narcissist over a long period of time. So before you turn narcissistic like them, because they can do that to you, you will go through the phase of being a toxic codependent first. Okay? And that phase of toxic codependency, where you become addicted to their chaos and their drama and their abuse, is what keeps you stuck with them. So it starts off as an emotional attachment despite the conflict because of your shared history with them, especially when you met young and things were good back then. Okay, so you hold on to those good memories, you hold on to that romance and that love and that good period of time when you experienced happiness because they heavily love-bombed you back then. So you stay stuck because you're holding on to that hope that one day it will go back to how it was. But unfortunately, it never does because the person you fell in love with was their false self. Okay, it was a facade, it was the mask they were wearing, and that's why after marriage they never went back to being that person. Okay, you got a completely different version of them, but because you don't know this, you hold on to that hope, and that's what keeps you stuck. Okay? There's also a fear that men have of not getting any intimacy for a long time if they divorce. So despite going for months without it anyway, because the narc wife weaponizes sex and she takes it from you as punishment, a lot of men will worry and fear not having any intimacy for months, even years, if they don't find the right person to marry after they escape from their situation. So that fear causes them to stay. Even if they get intimacy once every month, it's still better than the fear they have of not getting any for years. And of course, this is a fear that people have when they fear falling into zina. Okay, they don't want to fall into any haram relationships. So they say to themselves, I'm better off staying here and getting intimacy once every month or every 2 months than falling into zina or pornography or being celibate for such a long time and suffering because of this hardship. Many men don't want to take that risk. Okay, so they stay where they are. And some men also have very low self-worth, so they don't believe they can get a wife who is as good looking as the current wife they have, despite how toxic she is. So lots of codependent men see their narcissistic wives as being the 10 out of 10s. And because of this, they place their wives on a pedestal and they tolerate so much because in their eyes, these women are very beautiful. And in their eyes, they believe that other women aren't going to accept being with them if they are of the same standard of beauty. So they feel lucky that these narcissistic women even look their way in the first place. Okay? So the beauty is a trophy for them and they don't want to lose it. Everyone compliments them on how beautiful their wife is. And they like the feeling of that because it boosts their self-esteem, their self-worth, their self-confidence. So they believe that if they were to lose that, they'll be losing a huge part of their self-worth as well, especially if they're not feeling good about themselves. So when they look in the mirror, they see a man who's out of shape, he's losing his hair, he's balding, maybe he's got a belly now. He knows he's not the best looking guy in the world. But he's thinking, she's still with me, she makes me look good. Everyone looks at me and thinks, how did you get that kind of woman? How did you get that 10 out of 10? So they tolerate so much rubbish from the narcissistic woman to keep that trophy. And this is why narcissistic women who are known for their beauty spend a lot of money on their beauty to maintain it. They drain their husbands financially to get surgeries and treatments and all sorts of products, to maintain that because it's their weapon. Okay? They don't care about the home, they don't care about their kids, they don't care about anyone in the world apart from themselves. And as long as they're investing in their beauty, they know they'll be able to control any weak man. And that's why so many codependent men are slaves to women because of their beauty, and because of that slavery, they're stuck in marriages. Okay, because they truly believe that they just got really lucky. Like, why would a woman like this look at a man like me? But she's there for the supply. You are a very safe option for her. She knows you're loyal. She knows you have money. She knows you will bring the moon for her if she asked for it. Okay, you're that kind of man. She knows she's not going to get that from a narcissist or a psychopath. She can only get that from a highly codependent man who is a sucker for her beauty. That's why they use it. That's why on Instagram you see narcissistic women plastering themselves everywhere, because that's how they get their victims. Okay, they go for insecure men who feel lucky to have a woman who looks like that despite how toxic she is, despite all the red flags. This is from Shaitan, okay? Your qareen makes you see her in that way. Your qareen makes you look at a woman who is beautiful, or what he wants you to think is beautiful, despite all the warning signs. I'll give you an example. It's like someone wanting to buy a fancy car, okay? You want a shiny car, a beautiful car, you're going for a Ferrari. There's someone who's selling one. He's telling you it's had 5 previous owners. No problem. I like the look of it. I don't care about the previous owners. You're just looking at the nice bright red. You're looking at the new shape of the car and the alloys and all the interior. And they tell you It's been written off by insurance before. It's a Category S or a Category N car. It's been refurbished. You want to risk it? I'll risk it. It's half the price. It's half the price. I'll risk it. It could potentially be a death trap at your own risk. You say, I don't mind. I like the look of it. It's affordable for me. I can deal with this. This is what I've been wanting my whole life. I don't care if it's a write-off. I don't care what's happened to it. As long as it looks good, I finally get my Ferrari. And then the guy tells you, no problem. Okay, he's thinking you are unhinged. He's thinking you're crazy. No one out there with a sound mind would buy a car like that. But okay, no worries. Take it for a test drive, brother. You get in the car, you switch it on, and the dashboard lights up like a Christmas tree. There's something wrong with the exhaust. There's something wrong with the brakes and the engine and the windscreen wipers and everything else. You don't care. You're like, I don't mind. I'll fix it later. I'll sort this all out later. As long as I get my Ferrari, I'm good. And little do they know that the cost of repair will be more than the cost of the car. Okay, because there's so much that has to go into fixing the car. And at the end of the day, you can't drive it anyway because there are too many issues and it's too dangerous to drive. You'll get to that stage when you buy a car that's faulty. So when you marry women who are beautiful on the outside but have so many internal issues, essentially this is what will happen to you. If you will not buy a Category S or a Category N car, a car that's had accidents before, a car that's had so many previous owners, if you would not do that with a car, why are you doing that with people? Why are you risking it? You know, narcissists have lots of previous victims and they just get worse with time. It's the same cycle over and over and over again. And you have to ask yourself sometimes when you go to a second-hand car showroom and you see the fancy cars lined up, but no one wants them, you have to ask yourself, why are other people not risking buying these beautiful cars, but I'm willing to take the risk? Why am I risking my safety and my well-being for a fancy, beautiful car? Because people who are smart and have their heads screwed on do their due diligence. They don't care how beautiful something is. If it's not safe to drive, it's not safe to drive. If it's risky, if there's something dodgy about it, they believe that it's not worth the low price they pay because of all the anticipated issues that could come from having the car. Okay? People who care about themselves will do their due diligence. People who don't care about themselves will jump into a potential death trap because it's a Ferrari, because it's a BMW, because it's a Mercedes. Okay, that's what a lot of men do, and women, with their choices of partners. Okay, they just ignore all the red flags, all the warning signs. They ignore everything, but they do it for the sake of having a handsome man or a beautiful woman. Sometimes when I speak to clients and I ask them, why do you put up with so much abuse? The abuse a lot of men tell me about is horrific. I honestly get so frustrated listening to it sometimes because sometimes they will say things like, she's so pretty, I can't leave her. When am I ever going to meet another woman like that? He's ignoring all the abuse and he's booked sessions because he just wants to know how to live with her. Because the thought of leaving this beautiful woman is too scary for him. It's just too much. He needs to keep his trophy wife who gives him some self-worth. And sometimes they say to me, I need to show you what she looks like so that you understand why I'm in this situation. And I'm like, cool, no problem, you can show me. But if she doesn't look like a young Angelina Jolie, I'm not accepting this. I'm not accepting this at all. And then they'll send me a picture for me to understand why they're tolerating what they're tolerating. And wallahi, I swear to you, she'll look like the wife of Jeff Bezos, the new one. Or those evil, fake-looking women in American reality TV shows. You know, I don't see the beauty at all, but he's besotted with her. And I say to him, brother, unfortunately, your qareen has not just hijacked your mind, but your eyesight too. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We have a saying in Arabic which goes, القرد في عين أم غزال, which means the monkey in the eyes of his mother is a gazelle. Trust me when I tell you the same applies here, okay? Because everyone can see it but you. You are the only one who sees beauty when everyone else sees a monkey. And the monkey is abusing you, which makes it 10 times worse. Okay? Now, this takes me on to my next point, which is some men are stuck in marriages because they don't want anyone else to marry their wives after they divorce them. So they believe, like the man in the movie My Fair Lady, that they made her a somebody. So let's say he married a pretty woman who was jobless, or who came from a poor background, or he brought her from back home or another foreign country. And maybe he decided to invest in her so she could start a business. He funded a business idea she had. Maybe he funded her university studies, so he helped her get an education. And he provided a luxury lifestyle and funded her to get surgeries and beauty treatments and expensive designer clothes and wonderful jewelry and beautiful shoes. He poured so much into her and turned her into a princess. Okay, lots of men do this and they have pleasure doing this. Okay, they enjoy doing this. Only for her to turn around, grow an ego the size of China and abuse him for it. Now she looks down upon him because she thinks she's too good for him. Now she's getting attention from other men because of the way she looks. Maybe he helped her to lose weight by funding her gym membership, for example. Now she's looking good, she's feeling good, she's got money from her business, she's doing well with her studies and in her career. She's always dressed well, she's getting attention, and now she's looking down upon him and she starts to abuse him and reverse discard him. So when she demands a khula, when she demands that he divorce her, he goes crazy. He wants to stay stuck in that marriage because of the investment he put into her. He cannot bear the thought that the product of all his efforts will be given to another man on a golden plate. You see? Because he's done this for so many years. He's turned her into this person. He's made her a refined, fair lady who's got a good life now. She's got some independence. She's got beauty. She was pretty before, but he's turned her into something else because of how much he's invested in her beauty. Lots of men get discarded at this point because now she thinks she can get better. Now she believes she can get a rich man because she's turning heads when she goes out. And she's looking at you as supply that's now ended. The supply I got from him was enough. Now I move on to my next victim, which is the really rich man. This is how narcissistic women think. Please do not think that all women are like this. I'm talking specifically about narcissistic women who are always after supply. They will discard or reverse discard their victims when they've had all the supply they need, and then they move on to another venture. Okay? So the anticipated loss of investment can keep a man stuck in his marriage, okay, because it's too much for him to deal with. And sometimes women will play on a man's insecurities to get supply. So let's say, for example, she reaches this stage where she's feeling her best, she's looking her best. She now wants more from him so that he can keep her. And when he's not stepping up, or when he can't afford it, and she's expecting him now to take out bank loans and borrow money from his dad or his brothers and remortgage the house and whatnot, if he's not doing that, or he's telling her that he's unable to meet her demands, she may start to threaten him with divorce and remarriage. Okay, knowing it will trigger his insecurities and his jealousy. So she might say things like, well, if you can't afford it, I'll marry someone who can. Divorce me so I can get remarried. So here she plays with his masculinity. Okay, she wants to emasculate him to make him feel petty, like he can't step up and look after his wife. So she might do this because she knows that it's enough. The jealousy he will feel is enough to push him into taking loans out and to doing what he can't afford just to keep her. Okay? She might even push the boat and start flirting with other men in front of him. She may start to drop hints here and there that other men are interested in her. Or you may catch her flirting with colleagues over text or emails or LinkedIn or something like that. It's done on purpose for you to step up, because she still needs supply from you. In order to achieve her goal, she still needs to extract supply. And the only way you will know that someone is using you for supply is if you're not getting much back. I'll say this again. If you're not getting much back from a woman, if she's very entitled, if she's not taking care of you, if she doesn't care about you, if she does not show you love, she's using you. She's using you for supply. Good women always appreciate and give back. Okay, that's how you know the difference. And there are some men as well, a lot of men actually, who feel guilty for leaving the narcissistic woman child they're married to who can't fend for herself. Okay, so remember, I spoke about women who are intentionally financially dependent on you so you never leave them. Sometimes it's not seen that way by the men, but men, because they parent these women so much, they feel guilty. The same way women do when they have to let the man-child go to fend for himself in the big wide world. Okay, there are men who feel the same about women because they see them as children, or they see them as their teenage daughters who need them. So they struggle with guilt because they believe that if anything happens to these women out of their care, then it's their fault. Okay, so they continue that parenting role, and it doesn't allow them to move on with their own life, because in their minds, because they're giving unconditional love to these women who abuse them, because they're seen as children, they can't let go. And sometimes they feel guilty for letting them go back to a family that's very toxic and abusive. Maybe she told you that if you divorce her, her father's going to get her married to a 90-year-old man from Bangladesh. So despite all the abuse and the grief she's put you through, you don't want to see that happen to her because of your empathy. And she stays stuck with you. Okay? Some men are also heavily codependent and trauma bonded to the toxic cycle. So they will always fall for the hoovers. Okay? Lots of women keep hoovering you back into toxic marriages, and they do that by love bombing you. And this love bombing reminds you of the good old days. So every time you find the bravery to leave and you say to yourself, that's it, I'm done. Maybe you issue a talaq. Maybe you walk out of the house and you say to her, look, I'm done. She will hoover you back in because she can't actually believe you've done that. So she's not done with your supply. So she will hoover you back by love bombing you. And every time she does that, it renews your hope. It's a false hope, but she renews that false hope that she's going to change and that things will get better. And before you know it, you're stuck in a cycle again and again and again. And maybe you get reeled into a cycle where she gets pregnant for the first time or again. And that keeps you stuck there as well. So you're thinking that maybe this time things will be different. But because she's seen that you have the ability to walk away from her, she now needs to reel you back in and get you stuck to something else. It could be an investment in a home. It could be another child. There's always something that they reel you back in to keep you stuck to. Okay, because they think, well, he walked away so easily. He's not stuck enough. I need to give him something to make him even more stuck. And when they get desperate, they will start doing all the things that you've been complaining about that they never did for you. Okay? Maybe you used to complain about them always being in their pajamas. Now she's suddenly dressing up all the time. Maybe you complained about no intimacy. All of a sudden she's bombarding you with it. And you're getting it twice a day, every day. Maybe you complain that she never cooks. All of a sudden she's making the best meals. She's always known how to cook, but she never wanted to do it for you because she needed to save it for when she desperately needed to hoover you back in. They make a note of everything you want from them, because they use them as cards to play when they need you to come back. Okay? If they were to give them to you regularly in the marriage, they have no power in the Hoover. I'm going to do a whole podcast, inshallah, about the reverse Hoover, because the Hoover is not always clear. Sometimes, like the reverse discard, they will reverse Hoover you as well, where you Hoover yourself back into the marriage because you start seeing changes and you think, wow, maybe the problem is me. She's actually making an effort now, but it's a strategy. Okay, that's how they reel you back in without making it look obvious that they're hoovering you. And the hoover never lasts because they're not givers by nature. They can't be consistent with giving. So once they accomplish their mission, that's when these efforts will stop. It's always temporary, okay, because they don't want to give you anything. They now need to save all that effort for the next hoover, just in case you get brave again and you are willing to walk away or issue another talaq. But they'll make you pay for walking away. Okay, they will punish you for it. Believe me, I swear to you, they will make you pay for that bravery you had the first time round. And you will see all the efforts drop after they get you stuck in something else. So once she has her next baby, you'll see the monster come out again. Maybe it's just when she gets pregnant, or when you complete a sale of a house in her name. After that, she'll discard you. There will be something she will wait for until the monster comes out again. And it's always worse after they hoover you because they punish you for leaving in the first place. They think they're so high and mighty, so when you have the bravery to leave, in their minds they're thinking, how dare he? Who does he think he is for leaving me? Me? Does he know what he's doing? Does he know who I am? I'll show him. I've got something very nice lined up for him. But first I need my supply. I need to get this first, and then I'll show him what I'm made of. And believe me, many have lived to see that they do. So you take a huge risk when you go back to a toxic abuser after you've left them the first time. If you get hoovered back in, God help you, because it only gets worse after that. Some men are also stuck in marriages because the women they married changed later. So let's say, for example, he married a woman when she was very young. When she got to her late 20s and 30s and 40s, she met new people, she found new interests, new hobbies, her beliefs changed, her way of life changed. Maybe she's got a new style, maybe she's got a new thought process, new mindset. Maybe she's now more Sufi than Salafi, or more Salafi than Sufi. And a lot of codependent men believe that it's their Islamic duty to stay with the woman no matter what happens, even if they're no longer compatible. And again, that goes back to social practices and beliefs. But many men are in very unhappy marriages because the women they married are not the women who they're now with. Okay, they're very different. They have very different ways of thinking and everything. So they believe it's their responsibility as a qawwam to take her in all her forms and to take her in every phase. She might have a difficult phase that she's going through as well, where she's rebelling. She might take off her hijab. She might take off her abaya and start wearing clothes he doesn't like. He will put up with it because he feels that's his responsibility. But he's suffering in so many different ways because he's living with a woman he doesn't have feelings for anymore, and he's got nothing in common with anymore. But he feels guilty because she still loves him. She's very attached to him. And because of how she feels about him, he can't let go. Okay, he feels cruel to divorce her when she loves him and depends on him and needs him. So this relationship is actually more of a parent-child relationship or a parent and teenager relationship. So he is expressing unconditional love here. She may not be narcissistic, but he still sees her as a child. So he feels guilty for letting her go. Okay? When you are a father to a teenage girl, you will see her in all her phases. She will become religious at some point, and she might take off her hijab at another, and she may have different friends in her 20s and different friends in her 30s and different interests and this and that. As a father, it's your duty to be patient with all of that and guide her. So men in that situation are in paternal mode. They're not looking at their wives as women who are meant to be their life partners. They're looking at their wives like their teenage daughters. Okay? And a lot of men are also stuck because they have a fear of no one accepting their children and their crazy ex-wife. Okay? They might really have a horrid, narcissistic ex-wife who is scorned because she got divorced. Maybe he had enough and he found the bravery to divorce her, and she's on a mission to destroy his life. So a lot of men see this, and they see the kind of wives they have, and they know that they're going to be put in that situation. They can see the men in their families or their friends struggling to get remarried because they've got 3, 4, 5 children, and women aren't willing to accept that. Or they have a very difficult ex-wife who's making life very difficult. And that can put a lot of good women off. So when men think about that, they look at their situation, they say, you know what, it's just going to be too hard for me to get married as a single dad with all these children. She's going to leave all the kids with me. She's going to make my life a living hell. She's going to abuse the new wife and cause so many issues that will make co-parenting so difficult. And I don't want it to cause issues in my new marriage. So I can't be bothered. I'm not dealing with this. I'm just going to stay where I am. Lots of men think like this. And I understand why. Because sometimes the narcissistic ex will set out on a mission to ruin his new marriage, especially if she hasn't remarried. So her focus will still be her ex. Okay, he will still be that supply. He will still be someone she needs to destroy. So she'll keep chasing after him until she finds a new victim. That's usually the case, okay? Now, sometimes men in this situation will say, I'm going to wait until the kids are older to leave. But when they are older, they still can't leave because of the trauma bond. The trauma bond is so strong now, even though the children have moved out, they've gone to university, they've got married, they've moved into their own homes, and you're still stuck with the narcissist because of all the brainwashing and the conditioning and the programming they've put you through. So you'll find men in their 50s and 60s still stuck to their narcissistic abusive wives, even though their children have grown up and left the nest. Okay? You've really got to be careful of this trauma bond because the longer you stay with them, the stronger it gets. And some men are so terrified of their wives, especially when they've seen their wraths and their rages and their tantrums. Lots of men are scared of their women because they know what they're capable of. So if they even attempted to leave, they could get physically abused. Some men fear for their lives. When married to malignant narcissists and psychopaths, there are women who will take out knives on them. There are women who will get hold of a gun. There are women who will suffocate them when they're sleeping, poison them, do magic on them. When these men have a glimpse of what these women are capable of, it makes it very difficult for them to leave, so they stay stuck. And these malignant women will show them glimpses of what they're capable of deliberately, just in case they ever think of leaving, just in case they ever think of escaping. This is what I'm capable of. I will do this to you. So when a narcissist goes all out in their tantrum and their rage, it's to intimidate you into staying, because you worry about what they're going to do to you and also what they're going to do to themselves. They will threaten suicide. They will start self-harming. They might start to slash their wrists. They do things like that. They might start to stab themselves with knives. They do things like bang their heads on concrete walls until they pass out. They do things like rip out their hair, scratch their faces. They do the most unhinged things to get you to stay because you'll panic and you don't want it to be your fault. And sometimes you worry about being set up as well. So if they harm themselves, you know they're capable of telling the police that you did it. Okay? They might call the police, or if you call the police or an ambulance, when they get questioned about the cuts and bruises and wounds all over their bodies that they self-inflicted, you know they have the capability to set you up and land you in it. So you don't want to go down for something you didn't do, and they threaten you with that. They will tell you, if you leave, I will tell them you did this to me, and there's no proof that you didn't, right? They will have full control in that situation, and they will say to these men, if you even dare leave, if you dare divorce me, if you dare do this or do that, I will tell the police that you did this to me. And lots of men have suffered legally in courts, in prisons, for things they never did, because they were with malignant and psychopathic, narcissistic women. Okay? Sometimes a woman will force a miscarriage to happen as well and blame it on the man. She will say, because of you I lost my baby and I want justice. Or because of you I now have cancer. She may have been diagnosed with cancer and she'll blame it on you. She'll say, if you leave me, I will do this to you. Because you are the cause of my cancer, you need to stay and look after me. So you feel guilty for leaving them as well when they're in that kind of state. A part of you will feel sorry for them, especially if they've given themselves concussion as well from banging their heads on concrete walls and stuff like that. But if they get diagnosed with an illness, especially a terminal illness or something serious like cancer, you will be stuck with them because you now have to stay to look after them because your empathy won't allow you to walk away. So a lot of men are held down by women who force them into these situations, even though it's not their fault. But the guilt doesn't allow you to walk away, or the fear doesn't allow you to walk away because of what they're capable of or what they would pin onto you as a crime. Okay? So you've got to be careful here, because a lot of men get gaslit into believing that all of this is their fault when it's not. And because they believe it, they fall for it, they stay and take the blame for all the marriage problems. She will swear black and blue that you are the cause of all her illnesses, that you are the cause of all her miscarriages, that you are the cause of her being unable to have children, that you are the cause of her father's death and anything else she's going through. You'll believe that. And deep down you'll believe that because there is a feeling of you being undeserving of happiness or better treatment. Okay, men who stay for that long in marriages, and I'm talking 15 to 20 years, 20 plus years, when you're tolerating all of this and you know she's the problem, there is a deep belief of not feeling that you deserve anything better. It's like a punishment, that you are staying because it's a punishment for you, and happiness is just not written for you in this life. That's what you tell yourself. Happiness is in Jannah. I don't deserve happiness in this life. It has not been written for me. It's not my rizq to be happy. I'm just going to stay here and continue with my life until I die. But as a believer, we should never think like this. So this is something you would definitely need therapy for. Okay, because your self-worth has been so crippled by her abuse that you can no longer see any joy in life. Okay, there's no hope anymore. You just give up on yourself and you've got nothing to look forward to. So this is what I'd call serious depression. Okay, men who are in this stage are severely depressed. And these toxic marriages always start off with emotional abuse. Okay, that goes on to spiritual abuse, religious abuse, and it can get to physical over time. But look out for the warning signs from the beginning. And this is for women too, okay? So it always starts off as constant criticism and then gaslighting, belittling you for things, crying all the time over petty things, okay? Just to make you feel guilty for absolutely everything. They'll cry over things. Even men will do that if they feel like they've lost control in a situation. And when women do it, men often tell me that they can't bear it when they see their wife cry. So they'll do anything to stop her from crying, and she'll weaponize that. Okay, every time she wants something and she can't get it, she'll cry. Every time she feels like she's losing an argument, she'll cry. Every time she feels shame or doesn't want to apologize or take accountability, she will cry. To distract him from everything, he'll feel bad. Oh, come here, let me give you a cuddle. Okay, it's okay. Don't cry. Please stop crying. Let's go and watch a movie. Let's go out for ice cream. Let's do this. Let's do that. It works every time. So they weaponize this, okay? She may also bring up her childhood. She may say things like, you're just like my dad. You're just like my toxic uncle. You're just like my abusive brother. And you don't want to be anything like them because of all the horrid things she's told you about them. And when you talk about divorce, again, she'll cry, she'll have a tantrum. She'll say, oh, you're abandoning me like my father abandoned us. She will use your empathy against you to get what she needs from you. Okay, and she will do that whenever she's sick as well. You will notice that whenever you're sick, she doesn't like taking care of you. She will avoid it. She'll be irritated by your sickness. She'll be huffing and puffing about it. She will make you look like you're pathetic whenever you ask to be looked after, or if you need her to do something for you, she'll roll her eyes and she will look at it as a huge inconvenience to her life that you're sick. But when she's sick, she expects you to be at her beck and call all the time. Queen treatment all the time. She expects you to go and get whatever she needs in the middle of the night because she's unwell. And you'll notice that narc women are always sick. Okay, they're always suffering from something, especially digestive problems. So deep down they know they need someone empathic who will be patient with them and look after them. And that's why they have to manipulate you so much, because if you saw who they really are, if you really focused on that, you wouldn't stay for 5 minutes. Okay, so they always have to manipulate you and distract you with other things to stop you focusing on who they really are as people. And this is when they implement coercive control in their relationships too. So they'll manipulate access to their bodies, to children, whenever you want access to them, your social circles as well, your friends. She'll manipulate the mutual friends you have between you, your family, her family. She will weaponize her emotions. So she'll be screaming all the time, passing out, being dramatic. Her dramatic outbursts can scare you. Like I said, hitting her head on the wall, pulling out her hair, jumping up and down, running out of the house in the middle of the night, disappearing after saying she will kill herself. Okay, so you have a panic attack and worry about where she is and what she's doing. Maybe she'll jump out of a moving car. There are women who do that. She might fake taking an overdose. She might rage for no reason whatsoever. They do these things to control you. Okay, they overly exaggerate their emotions and they pull stunts to get you panicking because they love it when they see you panic. It means they have you right where they want you. And they'll do that as well by packing their things and leaving. So they might go to their parents' house and you don't like it because you don't want their family constantly being roped into your marriage problems. Or they'll pack a bag and storm out of the house and not tell you where they're going. They'll switch off their phone just to get you to panic. You have no idea where they're going, where they're staying, who they're with. That's all done on purpose. Okay? Sometimes they'll storm out of the house in a rage and start driving. And they know that you're going to be really worried they're going to have an accident. And they switch off their phone as well for the whole night. And now you're worried sick, you're calling the police to help you find her. You're calling hospitals, you're worried something might have happened to her. You're calling her friends, her family, and it's a whole ordeal. Okay, women do this to men. I've heard it. So, you've got to be really careful. And I'm really hoping that men who aren't married yet are taking notes. Because this is what you're going to face if you marry a woman who is a narcissist. Okay? Some women will intimidate you so much and they won't even allow you to have some space during arguments. So they will follow you around. They won't let you grey rock them. They won't let you go and pray. They won't let you sleep it off. They will follow you everywhere. They won't even let you sleep. They will start an argument while you're sleeping. They will wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and start screaming, shouting, yelling, just to intimidate you, just to make your life a living hell. Men are woken up because their women feel like having a fight at that time. And she knows very well he's got to get up for work at 6 in the morning. He's already got to get up for Fajr, and then he's got to wake up again at 6 to get ready and leave the house. But she'll wake him up to have a fight. She'll wake him up from so much noise and throwing water on him, and sometimes physical abuse, or just to make him watch her pack her bags and leave the house. So men go through a lot and they don't talk about it, okay? Because men don't really have a strong support network. This abuse is less reported among men due to the shame or disbelief from others. Okay, lots of men wouldn't even believe that there are men who go through this and even accept this. So lots of men in abusive relationships may feel so ashamed to seek help or fear that they won't be believed. I know men who have told me that sheikhs laughed at them when they told them these things. Sheikhs were saying, what fantasy land are you living in? What kind of woman does these things? People who can't relate to these men will really struggle to empathize and also to understand, because they have no idea what narcissistic abuse is. So many men stay silent out of shame, and they don't know where to go. They don't know who to speak to about these things. Especially when it comes to physical abuse. There are men who get physically attacked a lot by their wives. They get things thrown at them, furniture thrown at them. They get hit with objects. They get slapped, kicked, scratched, punched, suffocated while they're sleeping. I have heard it all. And sometimes these women are possessed by jinn, but there are also women who like to intimidate others with physical abuse. So there are lots of men who have to deal with a wife being physically abusive quite regularly, and he has to cover that sin for her because he is more embarrassed to tell others that he's being hit by his own wife. It's more common than you think, okay? And so is blackmail. Lots of women will blackmail their husbands because they have information or secrets they've known about their husband's past and things like that from his family. Maybe he's got narcissists in his family who told her, like his narcissistic sisters or his mother. Or he was silly enough to tell her secrets he shouldn't have exposed when they were getting to know each other or in the beginning of marriage. I told you before, they reel secrets out of you to use them against you later. And they'll blackmail you to use them when necessary. So let's say you're someone famous or well-known in the community. They will blackmail you to keep you stuck in a marriage by exposing you and your secrets if you dare leave. Okay? I mentioned this in part 1 because men do this a lot to women, but women do it to men as well. And if a man was stupid enough to take a second wife, she'll blackmail you with that as well. She will threaten to tell your first wife. She will threaten to break your first marriage because you did the whole thing in secret. And this is why, a major reason why secret marriages are forbidden in Islam. Because if you marry a nasty piece of work, she will ruin you and the first marriage. She will ruin the lives of your children from the first wife. Too much damage happens when you marry someone in secret. You never know when someone will blackmail you with it. And sometimes good men are manipulated into these types of secret marriages by narcissistic women. They get heavily seduced by them. Okay, and men can make the mistake of falling into a secret marriage, but you've got to be really dumb to do that, I'm sorry. Because anything that's secret can be used against you. That's why in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said, keep away from things that are secret. If it's not clear, if it's not something that's known, stay away from it because people will use it against you. What's hidden can be used against you and it can harm you. So always have things out in the open. Don't hide things from people, especially another wife. Have it out in the open. Be an honourable man, be a decent man, and do the right thing by everyone, especially your children. because you will get blackmailed and you will end up doing so many things that go against your principles, and you may be forced into buying things you can't afford just to keep her silent. She will use you to the moon and back. She will take full advantage of you not wanting her to expose any secrets. Don't listen to the deluded dawah brothers who tell you it's okay and it's halal. They're going to get you into a lot of trouble. I've said this 1,001 times. Okay, don't romanticize the whole secret second wife thing. It's a trend that's happening at the moment, and I promise you it's ruining lives. People will be accountable for a lot on the Day of Judgment. And more often than not, it's the man who gets the brunt end of it from the secret second wife, who uses his lack of intelligence to her full advantage. Some men may also be stuck in a marriage because the wife is pregnant, so he feels guilty divorcing her while pregnant, and this again could happen from him being hoovered. Okay, so he gets hoovered in, she gets pregnant, she shows her monstrous side again after he believed that she had changed, but because of this unborn baby, he's decided to stay. He's feeling really bad and doesn't want this child to be born without a father present. And there are some other men who got a woman pregnant before they married her. Okay, so they would have been involved in a haram relationship and they would have had to marry quickly because of her pregnancy. So he feels guilty leaving her because of this history. And every time he gets dragged into a toxic relationship with her and they go through the same cycle again and again, he tells her he's had enough. She reminds him of that and she blames him for that. She tells him that he ruined her life and all sorts of things, and it forces him to stay. He's now feeling the weight of that responsibility and he stays stuck in that marriage. And sometimes these men wouldn't have wanted to marry these women in the first place. They were just temporary girlfriends, and these girlfriends took advantage of the fact they got pregnant. So now they have the opportunity to marry a man who comes from a wealthy family, or who marries a man who's got a good income, or he's handsome, or he's got status, or he's famous, or whatever. So they have the option of having an abortion in the West, but they choose not to, and they pressure the man to marry them, or they expose the sin. You see? So lots of women will do this deliberately so that they can marry a man who's got money, or who's from a big family or a good family, and he's stuck with her. Okay? So he will find himself stuck in that marriage because sometimes she will blackmail him and threaten to expose the sin to his very religious family if he was to ever divorce her or walk away. So lots of men have made that terrible mistake and they are paying the price big time for it. And I also know of other cases where men are stuck in marriages because they caught their wives cheating on them. Some men caught their wives with other men in their home. Sometimes these wives were caught in other places, at their workplace, in cars, or, people told them that their wives were cheating on them with the neighbour, with their colleague, with their boss, with their brother. I've heard it all, okay? Every possible case you can think of, I've heard it. So the shame of this causes the husband to sometimes cover for her sins, because it would be more embarrassing for people to know that his wife cheated on him than for him to divorce and walk away and deal with all of that pain. Lots of men are terrified of telling people that their wives have cheated on them because of that embarrassment, because it really hits their ego and their masculinity. It just makes them feel like a complete and utter failure. And most people would probably blame him as well. And sometimes when the wife knows that he's found out about it, she will beg and beg and beg for him to not expose her sins. She will tell him that she's willing to do anything, and she'll go to couples therapy, and she'll go to Iraqi because she believes that she did it because she had jinn possession and all that stuff. So that begging can sometimes cause a man to stay as well, even if she's not cheated. Sometimes when a woman realizes that a man is ready to walk away and she hasn't manipulated him enough or made him stuck enough, she will resort to begging. And narcissists hate begging. They hate doing it, but they will resort to it because they know that you will crack under that pressure. And if they don't beg, they will resort to intimacy and sexual manipulation. So I've had men tell me that they have forgiven their wives for cheating because they got intimacy again. The intimacy they had been begging for from their wives had returned. And this is how women got away with the cheating. Okay, because they reminded their husbands what they were missing and what they loved so much about them. So there are lots of men who will not leave a toxic marriage because the intimacy is good. And women know when to switch it on when they need a man to stay. Okay, so they will manipulate you and withhold it for weeks and months on end until they do something so outrageous. They will switch it on at that point to keep you there. They'll keep you stuck there until you become addicted to it. Okay, they do that in the beginning and they'll do that whenever they need to hoover you and keep you there in the marriage. They will get you addicted to the intimacy over and over again, and that's how you become trauma bonded to them. And the manipulation that happens psychologically is you start to think now that I'd rather forgive her for cheating and stay with her because I don't want any other man having this intimacy. She's promised me to stop doing it and I'm getting intimacy out of it, so it's a win-win situation for me. But the torture is always there. The mental torture of the wife cheating never goes away. So he may tell her that he's forgiven her, he may resume life as normal, but he is always tormented by what she did. And he's always bringing it up. Every time I speak to couples, she tells me he doesn't stop bringing it up. Every time we have a disagreement, he doesn't stop bringing it up. He's always jealous now. Whenever I go to work, he's jealous. Whenever I go to the supermarket, he's jealous. Whenever I go to see my family, he doesn't believe I'm going there. He always thinks, I'm going to see someone else. I'm like, well, that's what happens. I do not believe, personally, as a therapist, that marriages can be fixed after infidelity because of the lack of trust. It's very difficult to rebuild that trust after it's broken. But the intimacy will be back because she needs him for supply. So she's begging him and manipulating him sexually because she doesn't want to be divorced. She has a very good life with him. He's providing for her and giving her the best lifestyle. She's got queen treatment at home. She doesn't want to lose it. She's not getting that from the men she's cheating on him with. So she's begging him to not divorce her, and she's love bombing him sexually to keep him silent. However, she is not happy because he doesn't trust her. He's always paranoid. He's now setting up cameras everywhere. He's got trackers in her car. Half the cases I get in marital counselling is about this. It's always about cheating and physical abuse, verbal abuse, and secret second wife and all that kind of stuff. And these women will also manipulate you into believing that there is hope, that things will improve, she will change, she will get better, and she believes that she's making a huge effort by agreeing to couples counselling and therapy, and she brings up the good times you had and all the history you shared, all those intimate moments, the birth of your first child and so on. And she convinces you to stay for that one last try multiple times. Okay, this is how she always does it. You end up staying over and over and over again because she brings up all the good memories, and it's painful for you to let go of those as well. Okay, so be careful. You might be manipulated by past memories and a past version of her that was never real. And if she's blaming jinn issues for her cheating and her bad behaviour, then take her to a raqi, by all means, if you need to, but don't rely on that being the problem, okay? Raqis can't help her because she won't be helping herself. If she is not willing to do the work to help herself, nothing will change. And sometimes men believe that a woman's narcissism is from jinn possession, and they stay. So they say, oh, haram, it's not her fault. She's got this problem. I can't abandon her. I can't leave her because she's got an evil jinn attached to her, and she'll convince you that someone did black magic on her. Okay, you got the whole black magic thing again. And she tells you, oh, people are putting black magic on your marriage to split you up and to make her like this. And you might believe it. And did you know there are lots of women who fake having jinn possession? So when you put the Quran on, they will fake having a panic attack and, all of that, because they want you to believe that their behavior is out of their control. You will know when a woman has jinn possession because she will do very abnormal things that are very difficult to fake, and the behavior is consistent. However, when the behavior isn't consistent and she displays strange behavior and she's not doing anything to help herself, there is a high chance she's faking her reactions to dhikr and Quran and salah just to keep you stuck in the marriage because she wants you to feel sorry for her. Okay, so again, be careful with this. Do not rely on what people tell you if you are constantly being abused. It's different when a woman is possessed and she's not actively abusing you daily or regularly. You can be patient with that kind of woman and help her to get the help she needs. You can help her with ruqya as well by reading on her and everything. But when a woman is not helping herself and she is constantly abusing you, please know, my brother, that it's highly likely it's being done deliberately. Okay? These women will blame black magic for bad behavior, and so will her family. So if her family know she is a narcissist and she is evil, they will tell you, because they don't want her back, they'll tell you, my son or my brother, someone's done magic on her. She's had that for a very long time. So why didn't you mention it before then? Oh, we thought marriage would help her. Oh, we thought this, oh, we thought that. We think her auntie did black magic on her. So be careful, okay? So I'll try and wrap it up now. I think I've covered most of the reasons, if not all of them, inshallah. But, there is a general belief that men should just deal with it or issue a talaq if things are that bad. So I hope I've managed to explain to you why it's not that easy. Okay, these are the issues a lot of men go through, which make it very difficult to just issue a talaq. So when men have a lack of close male friends or, emotional outlets outside the marriage, it can become very lonely and depressing for men when people can't relate to these problems. Okay? Having a lack of a support system and feeling totally alone without even family support is really detrimental to men's mental health. And there's also limited awareness of emotional and legal help for Muslim men in the West. Okay? So if you're going through this or you've been through this, I really recommend that you start a local support group for men to get help, where you can all share experiences without judgments. Okay, this could be online or offline. You can have your own communities, but it will be a charity for you because men need places to go and people to turn to when they need to speak about these matters. And in these support groups, it would be great to have people who are solicitors, lawyers, who can give legal advice as a charity to men who need to understand their rights regarding child custody, divorce, and the splitting of finances, and also help in understanding Islamic contracts like for inheritance and so on. So if people can take this initiative, I think it would be a great sadaqah jariyah as well, inshallah, and more men can get the help they need. And of course, I always encourage that people get the therapy and coaching they need. And I advise that you go to Muslim therapists who can help guide you with the right Islamic advice too. So not only will you be gaining clarity, you'll also be, inshallah, getting Islamic advice on your situation to give you peace of mind. And just make sure that the therapist you go to has the same understanding of Islam that you do. And I really recommend therapy because it could save you from various health problems and long-term PTSD. It could save you from having faith issues when you understand what happened to you. You might even improve your character by going to therapy, because staying with a narcissist for a long time can push you to become narcissistic as well. Okay, and it can also push you to hate women. You'll become red pill, and you'll lose the will to live sometimes and become more codependent from fear. So if you start to have suicidal thoughts and very deep self-hate, it's really important that you invest in yourself and go to a therapist to speak about it. Okay, save yourself, show yourself some love, and please go and get the therapy you need. Because if you don't, if you think that just praying is enough, you're going to suffer long term. Yes, praying helps you, but when you don't understand why you went through what you went through, and you're blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it, and you're blaming yourself and your own weakness, you're going to go down a very slippery slope, and you can end up in a very, very dark place. Okay? If you need help regarding child custody and dealing with that, please go to podcast 41. And if you're struggling with faith issues, go to podcast number 55, which is Why Did God Allow You to Marry a Narcissist? Okay? Always remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not promise that the good will marry good and that the evil will marry evil. It's not a promise, it's a standard. It's a standard He set for us because He doesn't want the good people to marry evil people. He clearly says, good men should marry good women, and good women should marry good men, and evil people should marry each other. So do your due diligence and don't end up with evil people. Okay, because Allah wants us to marry good people. He has created us to be with good people. So don't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by thinking that this is a promise. And if you think it's a promise, then yes, you're going to have faith issues because you're going to question Allah. Why did you give me an evil wife or an evil husband when I'm a good person? Please know it's not a promise. It's a standard Allah has set for you, and He's given you a brain to assess if someone is right for you or not. Now, if someone turns out to be a nasty piece of work after you marry them, then Allah has given you a way out as well. Allah has not asked you to martyr yourself in the marriage. He has not asked you to stay because of the kids and to sacrifice the empath you are in the process. He told us to leave if there's no second mawadda and rahmah. And if people are unfortunate to have a soldier of Iblis sent to them as a narcissistic husband or wife, then know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns a person Iblis has sent into a lesson about standards, red flags, trauma, boundaries, self-love, and the true meaning of love and marriage. Okay, you've got something to learn in the process. Just don't prolong it. Don't allow it to be a life sentence for you. Allow it to be a short lesson. Learn from these podcasts and other people's podcasts and books. Please read my book if you haven't already. It will really help you so much, inshallah, okay? And I'm hoping that the book will be therapy for you, and so will this podcast. And if you're struggling with anger and moving on from a narcissistic relationship, please listen to podcast 50. That one's about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow narcissists to get away with the evil they do. In Surah Ibrahim, verse 42, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ الظَّالِمُونَ إِنَّمَا يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارُ. Do not think, O Prophet, that Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do. He only delays them until a day when their eyes will stare in horror. So many people ask me all the time, will the narcissist pay for what they did to me? Will they be happy in their life? Will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish them? Will Allah this? Will Allah that? Yes, He does. And yes, He will. Okay, please listen to that podcast. It will give you some closure, inshallah. I've got loads of other podcasts available for you to listen to. Please go through them, and inshallah you'll find the answers you need. I've got some more podcasts, inshallah, that I'll be releasing soon. I will do one about the reverse Hoover as well, so you're aware of how that works. So I hope, inshallah, you've enjoyed this podcast. I really pray that you found it helpful. I didn't want it to be this long, but qadar Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al. It's 2 hours and 44 minutes now, so I will wrap it up here. Thank you so much for listening if you're still with me. I really pray that this is therapy for you. And if you have any questions, you can drop them below. If you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, you can reach out to me. My details are below for that as well. May Allah bless you and may Allah heal everyone. And I hope that women have benefited from this podcast as well, and that you found the closure and answers you had been looking for. So until the next podcast, inshallah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.